Okay guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. And Digital Classroom is waiting to see if the lines are open. And the lines are open, and I actually don't mean the lines are open, I mean the streaming lines are open. And that's where we always have a little bit of problems, because sometimes the streaming doesn't work. But as you know, now that we got fiber, everything works. And I already have something here next to me. It's gonna be fun. Okay guys, so join us for today's episode of Digital Classroom. Okay, so with me today, please introduce yourself, Brett.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here, Frank. It's really cool to be out in the country. It was a beautiful drive over here. My name is Brett Florens. I am a wedding and portrait photographer. I shoot quite a lot of fashion, and I moved to the Netherlands 5 years ago. So yeah, I don't know what type of information you want from me, because for the people that do know me, I can talk for days. So you know that's a can of worms when you when you open up that one. But yeah, essentially, I make a living from photography. I photograph weddings. I do fashion, commercial work, and I teach quite a lot as well. So yeah, that's me.
That's one of the things where I will turn down the volume just a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think it's a little bit too loud, right, Jeremy?
That's pretty easy.
All right, it's okay? Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we also have Jeremy with us, our new intern. Let's see how long he will
Hi,
cope.
Jeremy.
Normally my interns always run away after 2 or 3 weeks, so...
Funny that.
Yeah, it's so weird. So actually that's how I met you, I think, during one of those seminar things. And the thing that always struck me about your work is that you find that balance between creating wedding photographer and fashion. Because fashion, of course, is different from the normal wedding photographers. And I know that when I started out with photography, and the reason I do it like this is actually because what I'm going to tell you now. I started out with photography, and I think one of the first things that somebody asked me, like, can you do weddings? And I was just doing like, I can do anything.
Yeah.
I want to photograph a chair. I want to photograph a piece of carpet. I don't care. I want to photograph a canary. As long as I can shoot. So I was doing like, yeah, I can do weddings. And I saw some of those wedding shots, and I was just going like, man, I can do that. That's so easy.
Yeah.
It's like somebody just took a candid camera and just shot something. And literally a candid camera, because they were laughable. They were jokeable. It was terrible. And then I got into contact with a firm, I think in America, who sold instructional videos. And I got a lot from Monte Zucker, Dean Collins, which inspired me to go way more into the fashion stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got a lot called the wedding DVDs.
Yeah.
Where they actually also show studio tours, and where they really showed you how wedding photography went. And then I just saw that there's a totally different level between what we do in the Netherlands as wedding photographers, who are more like, I always describe it as, we can make some cool shots if you have the right person, but most of the time it's just the candids. And when I look at your work, and that's what mesmerizes me, it's that barrier between fashion and wedding. So maybe you can tell a little bit more about that.
Okay, well, there's quite a lot of psychology that goes into it. And one of the things that I think we can all acknowledge is that the photography industry is very cluttered. There's a lot of photographers. In fact, there are more photographers than there are clients. So basically, in a nutshell, you've got everyone fishing in the same pond, and the fish are just getting smaller and smaller. Prices are being driven down, and essentially it's become very difficult if you are servicing a certain demographic in the market to make it as a photographer. So what I did was, I realized this probably in around 2003, 2004, when I was shooting 60 weddings a year and prices started to drop. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but you're working all the time, but you're not making any money. It's like eating soup with chopsticks. You're very busy, but you're always hungry. So essentially what I did was, instead of creating a product that I liked and was easy for me to shoot, I researched the market and I found out what was missing in the market, and then created a product to fulfill that need. And essentially what I learned was that the middle market or the lower end of the market was attracted to a certain type of image, which is the type of image that you're talking about, which in a lot of ways you could say were candid camera and generally easy to shoot.
Yeah.
True photojournalism in weddings and creating amazing photojournalism wedding images is a lot more difficult than what people think it is, because if there's nothing going on, what do you shoot? So what I did was, instead of shooting for the middle market or the lower end of the market, most photographers, when they're in a predicament where prices are being driven down, if you can't get the money that you need to run a sustainable business, don't drop your prices, lift your game.
That's a very good one. Don't drop your prices, lift your game.
Yeah.
Yes.
So produce a better product and give your client a better experience. So instead of shooting for the middle market, what I did was I aimed higher and started to shoot for people with much more disposable income than me. And as soon as you start to research your target market, you realize that people with more disposable income than you live a different lifestyle to you.
Yeah.
And they see the world in a different way. They shop at different shops. They watch different movies. They wear different fragrances. They eat in different restaurants. So visually, the way they experience the world is very different to the way you experience the world, or I experience the world. So what I did was I pretty much researched that demographic and found out that they had an affinity to fashion. And if you look at those images that you're talking about, the candid camera type of stuff, there's no real fashion influence.
That's more a reportage of what happens.
Yeah. But for people with disposable income, their lifestyle, they read magazines like Vogue, Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar. They read those. So to them, that's normality. And if I can recreate images that look like they belong on the pages of high fashion magazines, it's going to resonate with the people with more disposable income than it is with people who aren't in that income bracket. So my work will definitely attract a certain demographic, but it would also repel a certain demographic, which is essentially what you need, especially in a market where it's so saturated. You know, let's go back to the fishing analogy. So instead of fishing in the same pond and basically going home with tiny little fish, you need to put in a lot of effort, and you really need to, maybe walk for a day to go find another lake. And it's hard work to get there, and you might not catch anything today, but there are less fishermen, but bigger fish.
Yeah, I think that's... And at one point, you have to be honest. Like, do you want to work every single day for a normal income, or do you want to work one day a month for a normal income? And I think for me, it lays something in between. I don't hate my work. I love my work. But at one point, you have to start to realize, like, sometimes we've clocked in like 60, 70 hours a week. And at one point, I have a video online somewhere where... At that point, one of my attendees of the workshops actually told me, like, oh man, you have such a glamorous work. Last week you went to Copenhagen, right? And you taught 2 workshops, one in Aarhus and one in Copenhagen. And I literally filmed during that trip. And I was going like, okay, I'm going to release this. And then people see that at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're at Schiphol. We land at 3. We go to the hotel to fresh up. That's 15 minutes. We start building everything up. I do the workshop. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you're sitting like this at dinner because we have to wait for everybody to clean up and get ready for dinner. So that's ridiculous, late night dinner. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, there's no breakfast for the very simple reason it starts at 7. You get in the car with 4 people and you drive 360 freaking kilometers to Aarhus.
Yeah.
You do the same thing. You go back, you're dead tired, and 3 hours later, your alarm clock goes off and you're at Schiphol at 10 o'clock because you have a 12 o'clock appointment. And I go like, yeah, we saw a lot of Copenhagen and Aarhus. Literally, when I took a pee, or one of my other photographers took a pee during the car trip, I could very quickly just take some shots. Yeah. But those were all of restrooms. So, yeah, we didn't see a lot.
No, yeah. I mean, it's not... It is a privilege to be in a position where you are busy and you are in demand. But, yeah, it's not as It's not as glamorous as people think it is.
I remember that when I was younger, I played guitar and I picked it up again. And one of the guys that I follow now is called Joe Bonamassa, and he's a very famous blues player. And I heard an interview with him, and that was so hilarious because, of course, I don't travel a lot. We travel a lot, but we don't travel like every week like you guys do. And that's because mostly, of course, I have the workshops here. But he, of course, tours the whole world.
Yeah.
And he says, I've been around the world, I think, 16 times. He said, when I retire, and that's going to be, and he gives an exact date, like I'm going to retire that date, then I'm 50 years in the business. He said, then I'm going to travel the world. And that might seem like a weird expression.
I get it.
But I have all these beautiful countries where I only saw a hotel room and a stage. And for us, it's more like, and we stopped that lifestyle, I think, 6 years ago for the very simple reason. We do a lot of trade shows, but some are in America, only 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And we were always in America, going into a hotel, going into the trade show, going into the hotel, going home. And I said to Anouk, I'm not going to do this anymore. If they want me on a trade show, we're going to go for 2 weeks. 1 week for the trade show, 1 week to have a holiday.
What I do a similar thing to you, but what I do is wherever I go, or if I'm going to go specifically to do a workshop or to give training, I try to make sure that there's a race, a running race, a marathon around that time, and I will either run the marathon before or after the event, and it's such an amazing way to see the city or to see the omgeving, the environment. So
that's not similar to what I do. I don't run marathons.
Well, it's similar to what you do. Is you take some time off to go and have a look around. But I mean, I've just run the Muscat Marathon. I was working in Oman and coordinated it in a way that I could run the marathon on the Friday and then go to work on the Sunday. Sunday is the first working day of the weekday. So I think that in the beginning it's you do get caught up in all the hype, and you dashing from one place to the next. But you do get to a point where you do need to soak a little bit of it in, because it is a privilege to travel.
For Europe, we actually bought an RV.
Okay.
For the very simple reason, I grow so tired I remember that every year we did the tours to the UK, and we did some other tours like smaller trade shows or just workshops on location. And we were always struggling like, okay, where can the model change? Yeah, there's no changing areas. Okay, is there a restroom? No.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just going like, oh, damn.
Take it all with you.
So take it all with us. And at one point, I think the breaking point was during one of the UK tours, where we had a very, very tight schedule. I believe 4 castles in 6 days. I was just going like, every time we went into a restaurant to eat, it had to be the restaurant from the hotel, because otherwise there wasn't any time left to retouch the images.
Yeah.
And I remember that at one point I just said to Anouk, you know what, wouldn't it be nice to have our own RV? And she was going like, no. And then that night, I still remember this, it was like a motor inn or whatever. And we just went in there, and it was a really nice guy at the counter, and he was going like, good afternoon. I said, yes, thank you, can I go to my room? Yes, you can go to your room, no problem. So we went to the room, and it was so hot, Brett. It was so hot. And there was this air conditioning unit, and I just turned it on, and it only became hotter and hotter.
Oh my God.
And I just went to the
reception,
to the guy at the reception, and I said, sir, I think the air conditioning is not working. And he just looked at me without any smile. He was going like, air conditioning? Ah, you need UK air conditioning. Just open up window. But at your room, I wouldn't do it because of all the fumes from the highway.
Oh my God.
And at that point, the next morning we woke up, and Anouk just told me, she said, do you still want to get an RV? And I was just going like, yeah, with air conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't have air conditioning now, but it's like you have your own hotel with you. So it's so relaxing. You just drive to the place where you do the workshop, you stop.
It's like a rock star with his own bus.
Yeah, with your own bus, yeah. But for you it wouldn't work because you need your own plane. But hey,
no.
Go to a bigger lake, bigger fish. What was that again?
Yeah, pretty much.
we have a question in. Let me see. Question to Brett. First of all, I'm not that good. So most of my photos I take are really taken a million times. I shoot with Frank shoots only 99% worse. How do you brand your work? I think what he means is, how do you make sure that people recognize the work that it's from you?
Well, obviously, things have changed, and this generation is generally a generation of instant gratification.
Instagram.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen overnight. You know, to master your craft takes you a good 2 or 3 years at least. I mean, I'm still learning every day, and I've been shooting 26 years. You know, so understanding that you really have to put in maximum effort to master your craft, because that part is actually the easy part. Shooting and composition and lighting is actually the easy part for a photographer who's trying to make a living from it. If it's your hobby and you want to be an artist, that's fantastic. If money doesn't come into it, then there's no issue whatsoever. But what I did, because I wasn't inherently creative, I wasn't born creative. I was a policeman who was given a camera in 1992, and I was told, you're the photographer, and I was photographing politically motivated crimes and township violence and the most terrible thing you could ever imagine in apartheid South Africa. And I had to learn very quickly how to take photographs. And then I started to realize I could make money from being a photographer and shooting happier things. Yeah. So I started photographing for my friends and colleagues. But once it starts to become a business, then the photography part's the easy part. The difficult part is branding, marketing, and getting clients. You know, once you've got the job, you know, that's really the easy part. So focus on getting better as a photographer before you call yourself a photographer. Because I think this day and age, everyone just puts photography after the end of their name, and suddenly it's a business. And you know, it's kind of like the cooking industry or the catering industry these days. If you look at 24 Kitchen or all these online cookery shows, you would think that every second person is a chef these days. You know, and there's no barrier to entry. That's the strange thing about our industry, is that there's no barrier to entry. Anyone can become a photographer, just like anyone can become a chef.
And the main problem is then that you get erosion in price, because, and I sometimes tell people this, and it's not bad to the guys that do it. We call them sometimes weekend warriors.
Yeah.
The guys that have a normal day job, they love photography, and they do a whole wedding for 75 euros. The thing is that when you have somebody that builds your house and does it for that money, you know your house will collapse. But there are some of those photographers out there that are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Where you look at their images and you go like, dude, you should really ask money for this instead of doing it for 75 euros. And they go like, nah,
yeah,
so
the old adage of you get what you pay for doesn't really exist anymore, because you've got really good photographers who are desperate because their business isn't working so well, and they're dropping their prices, and you end up with a good product at a reduced rate. Now, I try and take the emotion out of it, and I look at how Gucci, Prada, Versace, all the high-end fashion brands, how they run their businesses and the marketing that they use and the exclusivity that comes with that type of product. Because let's face it, clothing is a product where it could even be made in the same factory, but you put a different sticker on it and it's 10 times the price.
A lot of people do that.
Okay. So understanding that price, a lower price isn't necessarily attractive to a certain demographic. So if you introduce discounts into your business plan, you're only attracting people without money. So you're not without money, but
less income,
who are budget conscious.
Yeah.
Now, the way it works in some demographics, not all demographics, but the way it works in some demographics, the more I charge someone, the more he can tell his friend how much he paid.
Yeah. I still remember the first time I did workshops in New York. In the Netherlands, we charge 155 euros for a workshop. And we work with groups of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I actually have friends of mine calling me absolutely crazy because I do it for that kind of money. Mm-hmm. My opinion is a little bit different. I think we should charge more, but My grandma always told me when you charge 10 cents, you can't ever ask a quarter for the same.
Yeah.
So
because it's 250% more expensive. Yeah.
And we already started with the workshop, and we already grew like in 6 or 7 years, and we kept the price the same. So I can't raise the prices now. So the first thing we did was, when we did workshops in the UK and in America, is that we started out with the same pricing, a little bit higher, because we have to get to the UK. And in the USA, I actually would have lost money, but I just liked the idea of teaching in New York. I was going like, man, then I can have a holiday in New York. I can have 10 students for the same price I have in the Netherlands, so that will be okay. In the UK, we sold out. And in America, we just couldn't sell a ticket, so I was almost having to cancel it. And then one of my friends who lived in America, he looked at the pricing. He said, Frank, that doesn't... He said, no. Go to, instead of $199, go to $499. And I was just going like, why $499? He said, you will sell out. He said, and be honest, can you work for $199? I said, no, I will lose on that workshop day, I will lose 500 euros. So about $650. And he said, then why teach the workshop? I said, because we have great models. We have a studio with the Empire State Building on the back. He said, dude, people pay $750 a day only to be in that studio with their own model. Now they can be taught by you. So we didn't end up at $499, we ended up at $375. And we sold out in a day.
So you still could have got higher.
Yeah, and we sold out in a day. The thing is, what I always say, I want to give the quality to the people for the price that everybody can afford. That's our mistake we made, like, I think 6 or 7 years ago. So don't make that mistake.
Well,
and
you're setting a
just
precedent.
stick with it. Yes.
You're setting a precedent.
Correct.
So instead of, it could go back to the same question that person was asking now. If you start with those images and you market yourself with those images, you're going to set a precedent, and you're going to be stuck in that demographic for a long time. Rather, get a really good portfolio together, get your business plan together, get a great website, and then launch your brand as a higher end brand. Exactly what you're talking about in terms of charging more in New York. The reason I got into destination work, and a lot of it is also ego driven. I think that if you had to cancel your New York workshop, it's not a cool feeling.
No.
But to say, I ran a workshop in New York, it's good for you. It's good for the confidence.
To build a portfolio.
Yeah, it's cool. But what happened with me is I got asked to do one destination wedding, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Somebody's going to pay me to fly. And they said to me, how much are you going to charge me? I said, well, I'm going to charge you the same amount that I charged for a wedding where I was living. But, you have to pay for the flights and accommodation. And it happened. And I did the wedding, and they were very happy. And I came home, and I was like, oh, that was so cool. And I started to get work from their friends. But I was earning the same amount of money as if I was shooting a wedding at home.
Yeah, and at one point that doesn't work, because you have your travel day, you have your coming back day, you have your stay day. So in essence, those workshops should be like 6 times
Absolutely.
over.
My wife was saying to me, I was going, oh, I'm a destination wedding photographer. And she's going, okay, so where's the benefit? How is it making a difference to your business? You could be shooting a wedding here at the local...
And do 2 or 3.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, but I'm a destination photographer. She said, so what? It means nothing unless, unless you're reaping the rewards for it. So then she said to me, and it was a cool, it was a discussion. It wasn't, she said to me, well, we need you at home. I've got 2 boys, you can't be going away for 4 days for one wedding. So, you either charge more for those or you working at home. So I said, okay, cool. So I tripled my price for away weddings. Just because I would have been busy at home anyway. When I did that, my business exploded.
So your wife was going like, shit.
No, sure, like that's cool, because then I could pick and choose.
Yeah.
Then I could say, all right, well, we're going to go and shoot in Zanzibar. And, she would come with me with that. Or I'm going to go and shoot in Italy or France. And this is from when I was still living in South Africa. And understanding that obviously your product and your service needs to be you can't just triple your prices unless your work and your
it reflects that.
Yeah, it reflects that, right? So understanding that to some people, expensive is attractive. I had an email from someone. It was the most beautiful thing anyone has ever written to me, and the line that resonates with me and stood out with me was a line that said, "Just like Stella Artois, you are reassuringly expensive." And I'm like,
reassuringly expensive.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That is because people are paying an insurance policy.
And they have to know.
Yeah, because they know that every single wedding that I shoot or every single commercial job that I shoot, they know that they're going to get what they're expecting and more. You know, of course I try and over-deliver. But yeah, and I mean, we could talk about pricing and structuring your your pricing options. We could talk about that for days because it is one of the things
I think it's flexible, especially now when you look at the whole thing with YouTube. At one point, we just made a decision, like when I make instructional videos, and we made a lot of those, I think 15 or 16, the quality is really, really high end. And when we do these live shows or live shoots, the quality is okay, but it's a free live show, and I do free videos, the quality is okay. I really found that we got an enormous, I expected to have a surge in sales of our videos. Instead, the other thing happened. So that's why we're very happy with guys like BenQ and Rogue who make this episode possible, and like we have X-Ride who make Behind the Closed Doors possible. So our aim actually at the moment is, you know, we're stuck at that price point. After more than 10 years, I can't raise my prices like the way that it should be. So we're now actually getting more help from the manufacturers going like, hey, we like it that you do this stuff and we help you out. And I think that's a business plan that we choose at the end, just to go, you know what, we're just going to give everything away for free. We're not going to earn on the videos anymore, but we're going to help, we're going to get support. And that's like a steady, more support. And at one point, for me, it's very simple. I love what I do and I love teaching people. And I think by having the prices that we do at the moment, everybody can do it. And at the end of the year, we have some income left. And when somebody dies, I never saw them go to their final resting place with a lot of dollars or euros. We have a question from Facebook.
Yep. Can you talk about the early days of marketing for people getting started in the move to professional photography? And how should people approach the photography startup business?
Okay, so in other words, how should you start? I think he already did that by saying like start first learning stuff. If I recapitulate correctly.
Yeah. You know, in terms of learning photography, I think that that goes without saying. You should learn how to become
learn your trade.
Yeah, master your trade. You know, and then in terms of the branding strategy and your marketing strategy, you need to decide what genre you're going to go and shoot, because I've seen so many people say that, oh, I'm a specialist in corporate fashion, babies, weddings, events. You know, it's like you're a specialist.
In other words, you just aim and you shoot.
You're a specialist in 8 different things. I mean, come on, you know. So if you're going to enter the market, you need to find your specific niche that is going to work for you. Now, that takes research, it takes time. It really doesn't just happen overnight. And I think that understanding that one of the most important things about entering the photography business is that it is a business.
Yeah.
And you have to approach it like a business. And if you act like a professional, people will treat you like a professional. It's not a home industries. You know, it's not, you're not selling oliebolen out of a basket. It's really
so cool when it goes in some Netherlands words.
It's a business, and it's a tough business. It's not an easy business to be in, and I think that first of all, watching your digital classrooms and watching online tutorials and actually going to tutorials is really, really important. And one of the things that I'm going to say now might be a bit controversial, but if you want to become a photographer, instead of buying a camera and gear, invest that money in education
Oh, without a doubt.
and rent your gear so that you don't have this huge capital expense. Let's just say to set up, I mean, if I look around here, there's hundreds of thousands of euros lying around in tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
Tens
yes.
of thousands. Okay.
I just told you, we
bucket
only
load.
charge.
Sorry, now we're going to have someone breaking in because they think
Yeah.
we've got beams and alarms here. So yeah, but there's a huge amount of capital that you've invested in your business. Now there are rental facilities available. So if you want to go and do a studio shoot, you can rent a studio for that day. You can rent a camera for that day, and you haven't had that 10,000 euro, 15,000 euro capital expense. Use that money to educate yourself, go on workshops, and one of the things that I also recommend is becoming an expert outside of your area of expertise. So if you want to become a photographer, the first thing you do is you go to business school.
Yeah.
You learn how to run a business.
I did business school.
Yeah. So then why are you charging 155?
That's the thing. We learned product, price, promotion, and people.
Yeah.
And what I did, I think I did it right. I think like what you choose and what I choose is two different kind of things. Like I never aimed for the higher part of the market for the very simple reason I just love to do 2 workshops a week.
Okay, but wait, there's also a different element to this kind of thing, because in South Africa there's a big disparity between people with little income.
There's
and people
no
with
sliding scale.
There's no middle market.
No,
There is a middle market, but with the Dutch, because it's more of a socialist system, there's a much bigger middle market.
Yeah, and that's where I always aimed
Yeah.
for, like that middle market. And then at one time you realize, like, I got so many. Let me put it this way: I never ever dreamed to be at the position I'm now, like part of the Kelby One team, where you're literally sometimes called like you're part of the 40 best instructors in the world. According to some magazines, you're at the top 10. And you go like, man, now I always thought like, if I can do the Photo Vision Roadshow in the UK, which at one point I did. At that point, my goal was like, okay, I would love to have one instructional video. At the moment, we have 15 or 16. At that point, it was like, I always looked like guys like Kelby or Joe McNally, Jay Mizell. I also looked, those are so. Now, if I could get into like a lower tier of Kelby training at that point, so Kelby training for me was here, something that I aimed for was here, and I was just trying to get into there. And then within like, I believe 4 or 5 months, I was up there doing Photoshop World. And I think the problem for me was that within, I think a 2 years time span, I was going from a local photographer in the Netherlands who did some trade shows. And 2 years later, I was on the biggest stages doing stuff. And I think learning business school is that in between those 2 years, I should have capitalized on it and going like, okay, now that I've signed my contract with Kelby, I'm raising my prices. But as a Dutch person, and you know a little bit how the Dutch are, if you raise your prices, that would mean that I would never teach my workshops here again, but I would literally only teach abroad. Now, what's wrong with that? Nothing, but it's a choice. And I just love hanging around in my studio and having that fixed group. And that's what you see a lot with our workshops. They're fixed people, they're a fixed group, and we try to get in new people, of course, all the time. But when they come once, at least they come back 2 or 3 times more. And at that point, it becomes to get a friend group. And I never feel that I'm working. I'm always working with friends, experimenting with new lighting. And the thing is that, and that's the main difference between the workshops in the Netherlands and I think abroad, is during the workshops in the Netherlands, I take huge risks. I do stuff which I never ever did before. So I'm trying like, okay, what would happen if we do this? And I explain to the students like, okay, I have this in my mind. I think the outcome will be that. In 99.9% of the cases, it actually works. But there have been workshops where I just went like, okay, that sucked. Let's do something else.
But you learn from it.
Yes, and that's, I think, so vital that every week when I teach those workshops, every workshop I do something that's new that I never did before, that I try. And sometimes it's very subtle where the students go like, okay, that's nothing new. But in my mind, I still pushed it a little bit more forward to refining it.
Yeah.
And then when we go on the road, those are totally different workshops. They're in more expensive locations, of course, because we have to rent everything out. And we have to travel with kit or we have to rent kit. And at that point, indeed, we had to raise the prices for the very simple reason you can't do it for flight tickets and a meal.
But that's okay, because essentially what you've got is two different business models.
Yeah, in fact we do.
Yeah. So if you go back to the catering side of things,
You have the
you've
high
got,
end and
yeah, you've got people that sell oliebollen at the Dam, okay, and then you've got people who have got very high end restaurants,
yeah.
and they're both essentially feeding people. But it's a when you go to a very high end restaurant, you're not actually going there for the food. You're going there for the whole experience.
Yes.
It is you are going for the food, but you don't go there because you're hungry. You go there.
No. If you're hungry, don't go there. You leave hungry. I will leave even more hungry because you see all the food and you go like,
Yeah.
okay, that looks nice.
And it's super expensive, right?
Yeah.
So that also, so I structured my pricing. The way I structure my pricing is, that people with disposable income want less and are happy to pay more, but it's not necessarily. I mean, the food has to be tasty at least.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it can't be bland, or and it has to be like a new experience or a different sensation. But it's the way you treat your client that adds to the experience that can allow you to charge more for your product. So if you go to a high-end restaurant, the waiter comes and has a chat with you and asks you if everything's okay, and you get that attention from the waiter. If you go to McDonald's, you're not going to get that, but you're not expecting it.
No, correct. It's expectation.
And your emotional expectations are very different. If you go to McDonald's and you order a burger, how long would you expect to wait?
I hardly ever go to McDonald's,
Okay,
but let's
just take
say
a
2
guess.
minutes.
All right, 2 minutes. So if they took 10 minutes to deliver that burger, how long do you think, what do you think your expectations would be? What would you say about the service? Was terrible.
Yeah, probably. In a restaurant, it can take an hour.
Yeah. In a restaurant, if they brought it to you in 10 minutes, what are you going to say?
Did somebody else order it wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or did you put this in the microwave? It's like, it would be like, it doesn't fit with the environment. So understanding from that perspective, take photography out of it. You could be selling shoes. You could be selling whatever you want to sell. We are selling a product that it's not an essential item. I'm not selling bread and milk. If people don't have
choice.
And people need disposable income to pay for that. It's a luxury product. If you don't have pictures taken, you're still going to live. Everything's cool. Okay? So understanding that you are targeting people with disposable income, it's not necessarily about the pictures. It's about the experience and managing your client's emotional expectations.
But still,
which you can also put you could also put that into the workshop side of things as well.
Well, we do have like the ultimate weekends, and what I found out is also because the other part of his question was actually about branding, and I think when you start looking at branding, what I found out, and that's so counterproductive for a Dutch guy. First of all, I'm very down to earth, so I'm just Frank.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I have to be anybody else. I'm just Frank. And so the first time I advertised abroad, like in the US,
It's not going to work there.
it's not going to work. And I actually I told it to one of the guys who does a lot of workshops there. He said, "Okay, Frank, but when I look at your advert, it just sucks."
Yeah.
And I was just going like, "No, in the Netherlands I sell all my workshops with this, and it's filled." He said, "But you wrote." Did you wrote a book? And at that time I didn't write Mastering the Model Shoot yet. I wrote a normal book which is out of print now, and we just did it with blurb, so we made it ourselves. He said, okay, put it in there, and put it in like your book has been selected as best book. And I said, it never was selected. He said, yes, you were in front of your room, and you said, today the best book is my book.
Yeah.
He said, we don't say who. He said, what did you deem more? I said, well, I competed in the Hasselblad Masters. He said, how far did you go? Semi-finalist. Put it in there. And did anybody ever told you give great workshops? Yeah, put it in there and make it with big letters. Frank is the best teacher in the world. Did anybody ever say that to you? I said, yeah. Besides your mom? I said, yeah. He said, even if it's your mom, put it there because somebody said it. So he made this whole advert for me, and I was just looking at him, and I was just going like, what an arrogant prick.
Yeah.
Looking at myself, going like, it literally stated something like, if you don't do this workshop, you're going to miss out because this is one of the best teachers in the world. He has written books and he was amazing in this workshop, and look at the pictures, and you really want. And I was just looking at it going like, dude, it's never going to fly. And he said, trust me. He put it online and within a few hours, again, we got so many replies. But if I put the same advert in the Netherlands, nobody would come in.
Yeah, but that's just really understanding your target market.
Yes, your demographic.
But another thing that I thought of when you were saying that is, I know that you feel that you want to be down to earth, and I know that you're saying that this is me and this is part of who I am, but essentially that then becomes your brand, okay? But
Correct.
if you look at, let's just say a car salesman, if you think about somebody who sells a Fiat Picanto, picture that salesman in your mind. If you think about the showroom, okay, you're walking into that showroom. What is the salesman, what is he dressed in? What is he wearing?
Probably a very, very nice suit, because those guys always try to over-impress. And when you go to the Ferrari, I expect somebody with a loose stuff. So maybe it's the opposite from what you expect. But I think that the more expensive the car gets,
Yes.
actually the guys will be more casual.
No.
It's the other way around. I know.
Yeah.
But for me personally, and I think that stems from the time that we had the computer company. If somebody came in here with a nice suit and a tie, at my point, I didn't want to do business with them for the very simple reason I'm paying for that tie. But if somebody came in with a normal car,
Yes.
and nicely dressed, so not like badly dressed, but like a nice blazer and just a shirt, I was going like, okay, let's listen to that guy because he's more on my level.
Because he's connecting with you.
Yeah, he's connecting.
But if you look at cars that are super expensive, they need to connect with their target market demographic as well. So they're going to notice the Louis Vuitton shoes, the Mont Blanc cufflinks.
Yeah.
You know?
And
So,
the Adidas trainers.
so understanding that, let's just take a Mercedes-Benz car salesman. The way he approaches his client is very different to the way a Toyota Corolla okay? The sales techniques are different. The guy who's selling the Mercedes-Benz, can he afford that car himself?
No, probably not.
So what is he doing? He's playing a role. His job is to play the role and to connect with his demographic to make them feel like he's part of part of that world. So he smells like them. He's got the right pen. He's got the right cufflinks. He knows more about their lifestyle than he does about a different lifestyle. So understanding that he can't afford to buy that car himself, and when he goes home at 5 o'clock, he takes the suit off, he takes the tie off, and he's back to being him.
because it's from his boss.
Yeah, because he's playing a role. Well, he's earning enough commission, but it's a uniform.
Yeah.
But he's playing a role. Now, it doesn't mean that he's not a nice person. You can still be frank, but target a different demographic. And you've done that. You do that when you said you know.
Yeah, we literally have that high-end part where we go with a year with Frank, ultimate weekends, and we have the normal workshops.
Yeah.
And sometimes that line blurs, and I think that's also the problem. Like when you do the normal workshops, I already teach a lot. When you go to the ultimate weekends, it's a different experience. We take you out for dinner. It's a smaller group. It's an international group, and it's a longer workshop, and they're a little bit more intense in the form of sets. We use duo models. We go on location in one day. So there is a huge difference between those two. The thing is, what you see in the Netherlands is that literally the cheaper you go, the more you sell. And that's something that for us, when you look from abroad, I talk to a lot of guys from it. And that's what I find so good in your advice is learn that demographic. If you started in the Netherlands and you start up with the highest price possible, I think Dutch people are, at one point, there's a very small group that can afford it and will afford it, but most of people are in that middle area. And I don't want to teach to somebody who can say like, hey, I went to a Frank Dorff workshop and I paid this kind of money. I would rather have people come here and say, I went to a Frank Dorff workshop and I learned a lot. And it's cheaper than something else.
Mm-hmm.
So
but why does price even have to come into the conversation?
I know. Why?
It should be about value, really.
It should be, and I think the best thing is, and that's something for you guys to look at. There's a documentary on Harcourt, and Harcourt is the studio in France, which makes, in my opinion, they make really great images. But I've tried them here, and I can do almost the same images. And they charge you, I believe, 1,200 euros for a portrait. And in this documentary, there is this girl and her mom, and she goes for that portrait, so they pay 1,200 or 1,250 euros. The image comes in, they open up the box, and they start crying. They don't start crying for that image, but they start crying because they see the Harcourt logo on the photo. Oh my God, look at this, it's the Harcourt.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they look at the picture, oh, and I love the picture. And I was just going like, you're done. It's like Apple. If you have an Apple iPhone, you feel a little bit more special because there's that Apple logo on it. Now, I switched from Apple like 2 or 3 years ago, but I know the feeling when you bought something like a MacBook Pro, the first thing you saw, oh, look at that Apple shining. It's that feeling. And I know
but
exactly
that's
what
a
you mean.
whole nother psychological conversation. That goes into things called the triggers of fascination, and what makes things fascinating to people.
But you
and
can
what,
do that with your work.
Absolutely, that's essentially what I do. In terms of the exclusivity part, and if you've got a trigger of fascination that is alarm, which is scarcity, and that you've got prestige built into that as well. So you've got scarcity and a great product and great service. If you combine that, you get a heightened demand for luxury products, and that's what all those high-end brands work on.
I know a guy who actually shoots a lot, and he has this weird rule. He can never make it the first 2 dates they ask. Even if he's free, those 2 dates, no, sorry, I'm booked.
Yeah,
And he's just
with
sitting
weddings
at
it's
home.
different though.
Yeah, but weddings are different, but he does something else.
Yeah.
He does more like the corporate headshots, and he just goes like, no, I'm full. And then when they email him back, he says, I just read the email. If I feel they want it, I'm full that day too, but I will give him 2 alternative dates.
Yeah.
And one of those dates, if they reply within a week, I can do both. If they reply later, yeah, sorry. Oh, you're so lucky. This one I can do. The other one already was booked. So luckily you can. So he makes himself incredibly scarce, but I know him. He's like, if a work week has 7 days, he just only works 2. But for his clients, he's working 9 to 5 every day, maybe even 5 to 10 or whatever. So he creates himself to be scarce.
But that's branding. That's clever marketing.
And I said, what if you miss a really big client? He said, Frank, I can always shift my appointments.
Yeah.
So if a client goes like, no, I can't do it, then I will just go back, okay, wait, I really want to do this. I will do it for you. I will switch some over. And I said, but you don't switch anything over. He said, you know it, I know it, they don't. So let me see if there are any more questions. Let me see. The problem is finding commercial clients. So how do you find your first clients?
Okay. No. It's not as difficult as you think. I came to the Netherlands 5 years ago, and my commercial photography business in South Africa, I had a really big studio. I had 3 or 4 permanent staff working. I was shooting commercial work 4 or 5 days a week, and everything was fantastic. And I moved my business to the Netherlands, and you're pretty much starting from scratch. So I'm in the same position that somebody who's starting up now would be if they had mastered their craft. So let's just say, okay. So one of the things that is something that I try and tell people to stay away from is to shoot for friends and family.
Yeah.
Not because they're not nice people, but generally you hang out with people that are similar to you. They have similar values. They are of a similar income group. They wear the same type of clothes. They go see the same type of movies, all that kind of stuff. So shooting for friends and family doesn't really work because they don't have money either. Okay? So understanding that you need to shoot for people with more disposable income than you, how do you penetrate that market? How do you get into a market where it's not your network? Now, everyone's got their tips and tricks of how they do certain things, but one of the ways that I do things is I will go and hang out where rich people hang out. Golf clubs. One of the things that I did here was at a tennis academy. Now, individual sports, and this is pure marketing, it's got nothing to do with if people are nice or they're not nice or whatever, but individual sports generally have are people with more disposable income.
Yeah.
Golf, horse riding, tennis, all those individual sports generally are service, people with more disposable income tend to gravitate towards those kind of sports. So you go and hang out at the tennis club. This was before GDPR, so you go hang out at the tennis academy, and I've got my nice lens and my nice camera, and I would photograph kids there, and parents that are hanging around. They are much more approachable than if I phoned up Philips and said to Philips, "Hi there, my name is Brett, I'm a photographer, can I show you my work?" They'll be like,
warm welcome and cold welcome.
yeah, why? Yeah, exactly. So if I go now to the golf club, to go to the horse riding club, if I go there, those parents are sitting there and they've got the time to chat with me, and the icebreaker is me taking a really cool shot of their kid doing what they love, and I'm not selling them the picture, because I'm not because then I look like a street hawker, like a street vendor. So I would shoot a couple of shots and make sure that it's really, really cool, and then I will be, I'll see who the parent is, and I'll just go and stand next to them, and I'll just take a couple of shots there, and I'll be like, "Oh, how you doing? Are you the father of this child, or are you the son? Are you the mother of this child?" And yes. I said, "Oh, I was just looking, and they've got a great forehand. Have a look at that. What do you think about that?" "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" Because now they think their kid's a superstar, right? "I'll send it to you. What's your email address?" Maybe you do that 10 times. You're going fishing. All right,
Yeah,
it's much better.
Yep.
It's much better than sitting on Facebook.
Did you never get into trouble by shooting the kids? Because some people are so incredible. I'm literally afraid at one point in a park or whatever to aim my camera towards kids.
Yeah, but I'm not at a park. I'm at a
No, but
tennis
even
academy.
I had it at a soccer match where I was actually hired by the event organizer, and I was shooting the kids like in group 4 or 5, ages, whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the parents actually came up to me, and he was very aggressive. And then this is like maybe 7, 8 years ago. He was going like, "Why are you shooting my kid?" I was just going like, "Yeah, I'm a photographer. I didn't ask you that. Why are you?" And he became so aggressively like, "Why are you shooting my kids?" I said, "I'm hired by the event organizer. Can you prove that?" And I literally had to go inside with him to prove that I was hired. And then I was just thinking like, this is the world we're going through. If you point your camera towards somebody's kids,
Yeah.
they will immediately just come up to you and go like, "Why the heck are you doing that?" Because
Yeah.
some people are weird.
Mhm.
And I don't mean the parents, but some people are weird that
Yeah.
are shooting it.
But this is how I started my career. When I was a policeman, and I was working shifts, so 4 days on, 4 days off. If I had 4 days off, instead of just sitting on the beach doing nothing, I would go to a school and photograph the kids playing sport, and then afterwards go and sell the prints. So I'm not afraid to do that. And if somebody says to me, "Don't photograph my kid," I'll say, "Sure, no problem. I won't photograph your kid." Obviously, if I'm hired by the organisatie, then I'm going to go and do that. But 99% of parents who see a really good shot of their kid,
Yeah, I love it.
they're going to
I
say,
love it
"Oh my
too.
gosh, that's amazing. Please, can you send it to me?" And say, "Sure, no problem." And literally, one of the parents from the tennis academy, I sent it to them, and they worked at Philips. That's why I brought up Philips. And she wrote to me and she said, "Oh, thank you so much for the amazing shot. I see that you're, a professional. Would you be prepared to go to Kenya for us? We've got a project in Kenya where we are illuminating football fields, and we need those documented." So literally 2 weeks later, I was in Kenya shooting for 4 days for Philips, And then came back, and then they asked me if I wanted to do headshots for Philips. 3,000 people, you know. And then a month later, I'm in Nigeria for them. So now,
Yeah, then you're in.
and how did I get that job? I only got that job because I was at the right time, at the right place, networking with the right people. And it's not going to work. It is not going to work if I knock on their door and say, "Hi, I'm Brett, I'm a photographer."
I think the same thing, like how my career started. I got a really cheap strobe in from Ellingrom at that time, the D-lights.
Oh, yeah.
I took a picture of it, the D-lights are steel. I made the text with it, the D-lights are steel. And I sent it into Ellingrom headquarters. And at that time, I didn't have any contacts with them. They emailed me back like, "Frank, we love this shot, can we use it?" And I just looked at all the people that shot for Ellingrom, and I was just going like, yeah. So they were going like, "Okay, what do you want for the shot?" And I was just going like, they can have everybody in the world. So I just told them like, how much is it going to be used? And they said, worldwide, every photo magazine in the world will have that shot. And I was just going like, you can have it for free, under my condition that my name is underneath. The cool thing is, that's how I landed the Kelby gig. Because Scott Kelby saw the shot, loved the shot, started Googling me, started to follow me, and I got the shot. Now, I always tell people it's a risk. Because if you give something away for free, you devalorize your own income. On the other end, I saw it as a stepping stone. At that point, I literally was a nobody. Maybe I thought 3 or 4 workshops a month. That was it. And I was still on forums, just going to meetings. And it was for me a chance to become, I always describe it as being in a crowd, in a concert with Queen.
Oh, yeah,
and being dragged on stage. Here you have a guitar, play, and you're not going to argue like, okay, yeah, I'm now on stage. How much do I get for this? You just play.
Yeah.
And for me, and I always tell people, if Ellingrom or any other company, because we did the same thing for Let Go a few years ago, because they sponsored our show with great lighting. So as a gift back, I just made some images for them. And then they started to go like, "Hey, we like those images. We have new panels coming out. Do you want to shoot them?" And they just keep sending me gear. And I'm always very honest. What I can use, I keep. What I can't use, I send back. For the very simple reason I don't want a lot of gear here. And I think what I always tell people, if I already took the shot, I'm very, very easy in giving away that shot. For the very simple reason I already took it. It's on my hard drive and it's done. If I have to take a shot for a company, at that point we charge. And a really good example is like a few weeks ago I got a call from a German company, and they were doing a drill bit where they actually suck off all the dust.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called Dust Away or whatever, I don't know the exact name. And I did a shot a really long time ago with a good friend of mine, Chaim, in Freddie Mercury style. And they wanted to use that shot, but they were going like, I don't have any connection with that company. I won't get any products from them. It's localized, so in other words, it's not going to have my name on it. They wanted to change the shot. So I just said like, okay, I really like the idea, so it's going to be on advertising, it's going to be on the packaging, you're not going to mention my name, so I can give you a license for the shot, and I gave them a price. They were going like, oh no. We were thinking about 300 euros. And I was just going like, per shot? They were going like, no, for all 3. I was just going like, for 300 euros, it's not going to happen. You can have one shot and you can use it on a trade show and that's it. In the end, I lost the gig. But for this very simple reason, how easy I give an image to Hensel or in the past to Ellingrom or to BenQ or Rogue, how easy I give those images to those. I think at one point you have to be very strict and okay, I lost 300 euros. But I'm not going to give 3 images of mine, to a company who will change the images, who will never mention my name, who will have it on packaging and advertising.
Yeah.
Even stock photography is more expensive. So I think that balance, and I think that actually answered the question that Johan had in a very long way, is find your own balance and find your demographic and in which side you want to be.
Yeah.
Let me see if we have more questions. And then we're going to do the photo critiques, of course.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one. Do you have a backup when you can't go to the job due to illness? I think we triggered something.
Yeah, well, it is I have photographers that I know that I can phone and say, look, I'm sick, I can't make it. But it is the kind of gig that literally my leg would have to be off.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
You know, so I've gone to weddings with tick bite fever. I know this is a South African thing. I've had full blown flu. I've had my leg in a plaster cast. So yeah, it's
there's no excuse.
you've got to be there. If I was in hospital, then I would phone a mate, you know, that I know would do a great job. And you know, it's kind of like it's not an act of God, but it's 100% out of my control. So,
and I think also what a lot of people don't realize is you can actually postpone illness. It sounds weird. I don't know if you know the feeling.
You work really, really hard for 6 weeks and then suddenly you become sick.
You become sick. And the thing is, I've been an entrepreneur since as long as I can imagine. I actually never worked for a boss in my adult life, but I worked for a lot of bosses before. And I come from a family that always was entrepreneur. And always with Christmas, I'm sick. Every holiday I'm sick for the very simple reason you feel
you're not allowed to be sick any other time.
You literally tell your body don't. There's only one time ever where I had to cancel a show, and that was at Professional Imaging. You took over for me, and at the last minute I think I made it, and that was, you saw me that day. I was totally out of it.
You were not in a good place.
I saw the images back later when I was better, and I just looked through the image and I was going like, holy shit, who took those shots? And then it just came back to me, oh, that was me. Because you can't allow yourself to be sick. I've been on stages with literally, I taught a workshop in Germany with an ice pack on my jaw because I had an inflammation of a nerve. And that hurt like hell. And some people said, you're crazy, cancel everything for the coming week because that will, they call it the suicide sickness. It's so intense. And I was just teaching, going like, okay guys, one moment. Okay, I'm fine again.
No, it has to be like that.
It has to be, because people, and I think people don't realize that. If I teach a workshop in abroad, 10 people take off of their work. And the other thing is what a lot of people don't realize, and I think you have to be an entrepreneur to know this. If you call in sick, you with a job, if you call in sick, you're getting paid and the business runs through. If I'm sick,
don't get paid.
I don't get paid, but I also lose money. Because I don't get paid, but maybe the customer that I cancel won't come back the next time and go to somebody else, and all his friends will not come to me, go to somebody else. So the level of saying, I can't do this, is with us it's like a 39.9 degree fever. Or like if I really can't stand on my legs. So like I was on PA. Yes. That was very close to unresponsible. But it's professional imaging. Any other I have to be honest, every other trade show I would have gone home. But professional imaging is like I have to be there. So there's a level of between, okay, just on a Garney, just put me on the stage, that's professional imaging, and any other like, okay, I'm really sick, but I'm still going to do it. Okay, let me see, any other questions? Your classes are great, thank you so very much. Why do you like weddings, Brett? Must give a lot of stress.
Not really, because we're going to go back to price again.
That's why you run marathons, all the cake.
We're going to go back to price. If you don't charge people what you should be charging them, they don't respect you as much. The more you charge someone, the more they listen to you. So my weddings are like a day off. It's very there's not much stress involved in it, because I've done so many weddings and I've got a lot of experience with that. I'm almost the conductor of what goes on, because the photographer is there from the beginning to the end. So
you're the art director.
So it's pretty cool. It's not stressful at all for me.
I have to be honest, I found weddings, we always try to do 3 a year for the very simple reason I teach wedding photographers and I think it's not fair. We always try to do 1 or 3 family portraits and 1 or 3 weddings a year. Because both are not my thing, but I teach people that do.
Oh, so you have to.
I have to do it. You can't teach wedding photography to somebody who doesn't, or from somebody who doesn't do it.
It adds legitimacy to your training.
Yes, and I have to be honest that when I do a wedding, it's not a day off, but I also don't feel that stress. It's like, but I'm in total control that day. I literally am joking with the bride and with the groom. If something goes, like when they say the yes word and they give the rings, I always make this little joke with the ambtenaar.
Official wedding.
Official wedding.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when they do the kiss, and normally we were two shooters, but when I'm alone, when we do the kiss, just look at me and say like, hey, photographer, did you get it? And I will reply back like, I think they can do better. And just incorporate the audience with it. So
Yes.
in part, you are an art director. And the reason I do it, because we want to have that kiss and that ring part from 2 or 3 different angles. And when you just go there, I can think it's very stressful if you don't have any connection. So this is the wedding and this is you. With me, it's more, when I do a wedding, it's the bride and the groom and me is this little bubble, and everything has to move around it.
Yeah.
And I literally always ask the bride and groom before we do it, like I have a meeting with them and I always go like, what do you want? Do you want me to be a fly on the wall, or do you want me to be your friend that day? And they always go like, I want you to be a friend. There's one wedding who actually said, we would like to fly on the wall. I said, I give a great phone number for you. Call him. He's a great wedding photographer. Because when I'm a fly on the wall, it will be stressful because I
Yeah.
don't have control. I can't say, do this. And I wouldn't imagine people doing fly on the wall weddings 60 times a year, because you would have a burnout. Because that would be way too stressful.
There are people that do that, and I don't think it would be that stressful, because if they tell you be a fly on the wall, and nothing happens at their wedding,
It's easy.
you just say to them, well, and they complain about the pictures. You say, well, I shot what happened.
Yeah.
So I think that whole fly on the wall concept is a little bit of a cop-out, because I think it's much easier to just hang around in the background and not talk to anyone.
Yeah, but it's not what I want to do.
No, I don't want to do that either.
No.
I need to direct people, because let's just say, for example, right now, you asked me to take your photograph, but I must be fly on the wall. Okay? The lighting from the front where the camera is great, but I've got other light coming from behind here. So if I'm looking
I want
at
to
you now,
change that.
it's not great for me. So I would swing you around and photograph you with these great lights over here, and it would take me 10 seconds to get you into the place that I want, but I'm directing you.
Yeah, and that's those 10 seconds I need to make it less stressful, because
Yeah.
otherwise I make a picture and I go like, oh crap. And then you get the complaints from the wedders, because they don't know anything about photography.
Yes.
So just gave him a phone number of somebody else. Like,
Yeah,
oh, okay. And
no.
all the other who goes like, we want you to be part of our team. We have had literally the bride and the groom here in the studio, just sitting down, sipping some coffee and going like, oh, finally, 10 minutes. Frank, don't say anything. We just want to sit, because they were away from the parents, from all like, oh, you have to do this. And I think at that point, after that part in the studio, you become friends, and it just goes easier, and you don't have that stress. Okay, let me see. Question to both, for me also. If I do a shoot, it works in 2 ways. I give ideas and options for the shoot, but I experience more and more that models don't want to invest anymore. And I don't believe if you ask 250 euros more, or like ask nothing, they just don't want to invest anymore. Okay, I think what he tries to say is that over time he finds out that models aren't that interested anymore as they were in the past. And that if you charge more for a portfolio shoot, that they won't pay it. Now, I will answer that first. I always had this simple rule. If a model approaches me, she pays. If I approach a model, it's TFP. Because at that time I see something in a model and I want to build a portfolio. So I asked her. So at that point, if the model says, oh, you have to pay me, I go like, no. I ask you, you look at my work. If I want to work with you, it's like more, and it sounds arrogant, it's like an honor that I ask you. But if somebody approaches me like, hey, I want to have my, and I think one of the coolest conversations I ever had was a model. She said, I want to be photographed by you. I said, that's great. These are our prices. And she was going like, no, I'm a model. And I was going like, yeah, and I'm a photographer. So these are the prices. No, Frank, you don't understand. I'm a model. I said, okay, what does your parents do? Oh, my father is a plumber. I said, okay, I will shoot you, but I need a garden hose in the back of my garden. I need a faucet in the back.
Yeah.
So your pop can do that, right? Yeah, he does that all the time. So we can combine it. I said, yeah. So I'm going to shoot you, and your dad is going to make that faucet over there. Okay, well, ask my father what it cost. He said, no, your father's a plumber. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, he's a plumber, so he should do it. Because I'm a photographer, you're a model, and I should shoot you for free. Never heard back. So weird. And I think at one point you just have to realize that sometimes charging money isn't bad, but you have to realize that when you do everything for free, as soon as you start charging money, people will say no. Don't be discouraged by that. When I did workshops from day one, I charged money, but when I did trade shows, and this is where something that I did wrong, when I did trade shows, I was very easy. Pay for my hotel, and I will be on the trade show floor because I love doing trade shows. But after so many years, I just go like, no, this is my day rate, and I need flight tickets. It means that I lose, I think, half of my clients.
Okay.
I don't care. Because if I'm at a trade show, they have 300-400 people in front of the booth. If they choose somebody else who's free, they only have 15 people. So choose 300 people in front of your booth or 15.
Okay,
and then you give that quality.
Mm-hmm. Just to clarify though, and I'm just putting you on the spot, you're saying that you wouldn't pay for a model?
If the model asks me to shoot her, no. If I ask the model, yes. But if I really need something and it's a commercial job, I pay the model. So when we did the videos for Kelby, we pay the models. If we do workshops, we pay the models.
All right.
But his question is actually, he shoots, I think, a lot of TFPs. And he wants to charge, and he thinks that because now with TFP already,
but
he's
TFP,
not getting a lot of models, that when he starts, and I have the same problem, getting a model to pay for her portfolio when there is a website with a gazillion photographers literally not standing in line going like, I can do it. No, standing in line going like, can I please do it? Can I please do it? Models will become a little bit more arrogant and picky with what they do. That's why I actually cancelled all my accounts at sites like Dutch Heaven or where all those models and photographers are. I still have a profile there, but it's not active anymore because there are so many people there. And then if you can be shot by 75 photographers for free, why should you pay one as a starting model?
Yeah, okay, but to go back to the viewer's question there, we're going back to the same concept of selling oliebollen or selling a fine dining experience. If everyone is doing everything for free, then you're not going to be able to charge. But your product and your and the client experience needs to be different to the other people. So if you are like your product is unbelievable, they'll pay.
Yeah.
If your product is the same as everyone else's,
they won't.
They won't.
And I think that's where the problem from Johan. He actually started this out, and maybe this will hurt a little bit, but hey,
that's what we're here for, right?
I don't want to sugarcoat stuff, but he says I do the same work that Frank does, but 99.9% worse. In all honesty, that's his own word. So he said it like three blocks up. In all honesty, I already have problems for models doing their portfolio shoots here and getting them to pay.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people realize this. I teach workshops. Let me put this 100% in front. I teach workshops because I love teaching workshops. It's not what a lot of photographers do. I can't make a business, so I do workshops. No, my core business, my core activity is education. For fun, I also do family portraits, weddings, and whatnot more. So that's
and it legitimizes your teaching.
Correct. So I do that for fun. But I have a really, really hard time getting families into the studio. I have a really, really hard time getting models to pay for their portfolios. For the very simple reason, again, there are 75 photographers out there that will do it for free, that don't do my quality, but that are affordable. And at one point, I think we just said, like, you know what, we just love that teaching part. And that's the part where you really get recognition and also where you stand out. And with photography, again, you have to have that product. And that product has to be so incredibly good that people go for it.
Yeah, but the experience also has
the experience, yes. Yeah. And that's what the workshop does. We start with that Q&A, we do that stuff, we do the online stuff where people get to know you. And you do the same thing with your instructional tutorials and your online presence, which is actually active, what a lot of photographers don't do. Okay, so let me see. I don't know if it's from Johan also. Isn't going to a tennis club and making photos called stalking? No, of course not. It's just going there.
You can call it what you like. That's what I did.
Yeah, I don't agree with...
I'm not...
stalking is more if you walk...
And follow the same person home.
The same person over and over.
Yeah, but then you follow them home.
And just go out of the garbage, go like... No, that's...
And if you're not going to do that, somebody else will.
Yeah.
I call it hustling.
Yeah. Hustling and just getting the job.
Yeah.
Okay, after the break, we're going to be back with, of course, some photo critiques. And I'm going to show Brett my work, and he's going to show me his work, and I'm going to critique my work. And he's no, I'm just kidding. But before that, we talked a lot about workshops, and we actually have something really cool coming up. And I'm going to show you that. If you're in Sweden, close to Malmö, just watch this, because we're coming to you, your neck of the woods, guys.
Is that that's not a Mac?
Hey guys, and welcome to our studio in Emmeloord. My name is Frank Dorhoff, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that we get a lot of questions about. Hey Frank, how do you like this image? Hey Frank, what can I improve in this image? And of course, I love to help you guys out. But online, I mostly am limited to just saying, hey, I really like it, or continue like this, or change this. I can only do short images because, let's be honest, we get so many questions. So that's what actually got us thinking, and we started a Patreon. Now, what is a Patreon? Well, let me put it this way. Do you want an extensive photo critique every month? Do you want the bed phone, where you can directly contact me with any questions you have? Do you want to be member of a group that's closed off on Facebook that have the same interest as you guys? That isn't about putting people down, but it's actually about helping people progress in their photography and retouching. Well, that's our Patreon. Now, by joining our Patreon, every month you can deliver 1 or 2 images. We're not that strict about it. And I will do a whole video. In that video, I will show you how I would do the retouching, what I would change about the shot, and I give you a whole lot of tips. That video is put online on a closed-off website. And it means that only the guys from Patreon can see that video and help you out. So I help you out, and the whole community helps you out. It's just an awesome way to learn. So, if you like what we do, of course, the first thing you can do is subscribe to our channels, leave comments, and smash that like button because we really like it, and tell other people about it. But if you want to do a little bit more and help us out creating the awesome programs you enjoy, like Behind the Closed Doors, Digital Classroom, quite frankly, our upcoming podcast, Beyond Photography with the Dorhoffs, and a lot more, then please join our Patreon. I already know you're absolutely gonna love it. So head on over to the link below and start joining our awesome group on Patreon and get a lot of benefits. Thank you so very much for supporting our work. See you online. Okay, we're live. So don't repeat that last thing. Don't. Okay, another question is coming in, and after that we're going to do the photo critiques. Oh, I see two. Let me see. I also am starting giving workshops for starting photographers and charge 85 euros and have trouble finding students. Okay, let me answer that one. One, when I taught workshops for the first time, people literally asked me. They didn't ask me, they begged me. I didn't want to teach workshops. I wanted to shoot for magazines, I wanted to shoot for families, I wanted to shoot portraits, I wanted to shoot artists. Mm-hmm. I failed miserably in almost every department. And I literally just was going like, no, I don't want to teach workshops, because for the very simple reason, a workshop is something you have to be taught from a master. And even today, I don't consider myself a master. I probably am, but I don't consider myself a master. I know I can take a good shot, I know I can have a funny story, and I know my theory very well. And if you look at the market nowadays, everybody teaches freaking workshops. So why don't you get any students? I can explain to you that very, very simple. It's not your 85 euro pricing. You wouldn't get any students even if it was 25 euros pricing. And maybe this may hurt a little bit, but hey, we don't like to sugarcoat it. If you want to teach workshops, don't start teaching workshops. Literally, let people come to you. Do you want to teach a workshop for us? And then just wait for, I waited for another freaking year. And they always ask me like, Frank, do you want to teach a workshop? No. Frank, do you want to teach a workshop? No. The moment I gave it, all hell broke loose because I couldn't keep up anymore. Because at one point I just went like, okay, I will teach one. And at that point the bug just bit me. It was so much fun. And at that point I literally shot for a magazine. So I finally had my dream come true. I was shooting for a magazine. And I just looked at it, and I remember the first time I went to the bookstore and got the magazine with my pictures on the front cover. So I was the main photographer, and I just looked at it and I was like, oh, wow. But that excitement, the moment I was home, that excitement was gone. I still had a smile.
Yeah.
But when I taught a workshop, I remember the first time I was with Corrine, I had 12 people in the room. And I got all these emails afterwards, like, you changed the way I look at photography. Frank, look at this shot. And instead of having that cover and that 1 point gratification, and of course your bank account went a little bit up, but hey, that's always fun. I had this workshop where I earned less than I earned for the magazine, but I had all these people who were so happy, who mailed me like, you changed the way I look at photography, you changed the way I look at lighting, man, we love today. And I was just going like, this is way more fun. And after that it grew, of course, but the workshops, and I think a lot of photographers, I think you also didn't start out waking up one morning going like, damn, I'm going to do weddings and I'm going to charge 15,000 euros for a day and I'm only going to do locations. I think it just has to grow. And I think a lot of people nowadays, same with photography, they buy a camera and 3 weeks later they expect to be on top of the world, teaching, giving stuff, teaching, Jos, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. When you do photography, teaching is the most difficult thing because you literally form people. And if I see how much trouble I have over here with people who refuse. I don't know if you use one, don't answer. You know where I'm going, right?
No.
Oh, light meters.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If Brett does, do you use a light meter?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. If Brett would tell me I would never use a light meter, Brett is legit for the very simple reason he makes kick-ass images. And I'm not going to tell you have to use a light meter. But I have so many students coming here for the first time who went to other workshops, who went like, my other teacher told me you should never ever have to use a light meter. Now you know the reason why you don't use a light meter and you can still function. You're only a little bit slower than me, for example, when taking that shot with a light meter.
Yeah.
So there's no competition. It's the same image in the end. I'm a little bit faster. You're a little bit faster because you know your gear. We both know what we're doing. If you are an instructor and you tell people literally you don't need to use a light meter, you tell people something for the wrong reasons, you tell it wrong, and you literally destroy their progress.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when they want to go into teaching, and this is literally my pet peeve, if you may call it like that, I think when you go into teaching, be really, really aware of that point, that you're forming people. And that people, if they want to go to a workshop, I would never go to a workshop from Ari. Sorry Ari, if you're watching, I don't mean you. Let's say Bert. I would never go to a workshop of Bert, because I don't know who Bert is. I have no clue. But I would love to go to a workshop from David LaChapelle, for the very simple reason, I never heard of David LaChapelle when I started out with photography. I saw his work, I really liked it, but I was going like, yeah, okay. Then I started to love his work, I became a fan, I just kept, and it grew in me like, oh man, I want to go to David LaChapelle for a workshop. He doesn't teach any workshops that are affordable for me, so I can't go. And I think
but it's aspirational for you.
Yes.
So you would like to,
yes, still, if I would have the chance, yes. And I think when you start out with teaching workshops, I think you never start with teaching workshops. I think you grow into it, that people keep asking. So if you can't find any students, you're too early. You already have to have the students, and then you have to figure out the price, and you have to pick a date. And I think at the moment we do the workshop like we have a fixed program, like on Saturday and Friday, and we already booked that, so now people have to register. But when I started with workshops, it literally was like, if I have 12 people together, I will pick a date.
Oh yeah.
And I will give you a price. And then I ended up with 10. So I hope, Jos, that you don't feel offended by what I say. But if you really can't find any students for 85 euros, it's not your pricing. First, build that portfolio. And another thing, and I don't know...
You need legitimacy, though.
Yes, you need something to back that up.
Yeah.
And another thing is social media. I know a lot of people don't believe in social media. Like, if you have a certain level, don't do social media anymore. I think the higher my level gets, actually the more active I am on social media. Because I think that's the future. That's where you build your crowd. And at that point, when you do something and you give a lot for free, you can also do a commercial one in between.
One of the things with regards to giving workshops, if your work is extraordinary and you're teaching lighting and you've got a certain technique that is unique to how you do something, and
don't teach.
Yeah, okay, but you can get legitimacy for that.
Yeah.
But don't pick up a camera. 6 months later, you're a photographer. 1 year later, you want to give a workshop on how to run a sustainable business.
Yeah, I've seen those. I don't even know it yet.
So I started shooting in 1992, and I started doing workshops in 2008. And by then, I knew how to run a sustainable, profitable business. If you're in business for 16 years, you're doing okay. So you have to be able to back up what you're selling in terms of a specific genre of workshop, or if you're teaching about the business of photography, you have to have legitimacy. You have to have been in business for a while.
Would have to be. It sounds weird, but people don't go to a workshop because it's a workshop. People go to a workshop because they're a little bit of a fan. And I always do this with fan because I'm not a rock star, but people have to look up to you to go for a workshop. Because let's be honest, you pay 155 euros, or in your case 85 euros, for a workshop of somebody you admire, because the market is overflown with workshops. So why should you go somewhere because you like the person that does it? So first build that social media presence, first build portfolio, start building demand, and as soon as there's demand, you have your brand, and then you actually pick it up like, hey guys, I don't want to do this. I will do it, but I will raise the price to not 85 euros, but because everybody wants it, maybe 200 euros. Because at that point, you have created demand, and you don't have a product. And I think the cheapest products on the market are products that actually are built, put on the market, and who wants it? The more expensive products are products that actually are not on the market. Yeah. A lot of people want it.
Tailor-made.
One company goes like, okay, we'll make it, and they just put a price on it that's ridiculous and put it on the market. What? Tailor-made?
Tailor-made. It's bespoke.
Oh, tailor-made. Yes, correct. Yeah. Okay, let me see. I'm not. Let me see. I'm not insulted, but want to learn. Okay, cool. I hate typing. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me see. I also started, should I charge more? The feedback I get back from students, I've got a very positive, that's a good thing. And my workshops are for starting photographers. I think for starting photographers, the thing that you compete with starting photographers is
the internet
and Camera Nu and Camera Express. Every week I get an email, and I can literally, if I want, I can spend every weekend at least at 6 workshops that are free, with big names like I do Camera Nu workshops for free.
Yeah.
I get paid, of course, by Camera Nu, but they're free. So
they're
we
free
have 40,
to attend.
Yeah, there are 40 people in each group. I teach the workshop, and it's for free. So why should I go for?
And it's good content. You're not going to teach Mickey Mouse content.
No. And I think for starting photographers, maybe this is the thing that you should look at. And I always tell people I don't teach starting photographers. I have a lot of starting photographers in my group, but I teach for creative photographers and more advanced photographers, because that's a niche. The starting photographer can just type in, how do I start Lightroom, enter, and you get a gazillion options for Lightroom, from the biggest stars in the world to the smallest stars.
For free.
For free. And I think if you want to teach workshops for the starting photographer, the best thing is actually get into contact, and there we go with the networking again, with a local photo club, with maybe a local school. And I want to teach photography, and let the school pay you so the students can actually get that free photography. I think that's a really good thing. Okay, we're going to go to the photos. Thank you for your response. Thank you so very much, Jos. We just try to do it as honestly as possible. Okay, so first image is in. And this image is from Brett, of course.
Yeah. Why do you say of course?
Because it's not one of mine. I absolutely, this is the one, and it's a shame actually it's in first. I would have hoped that this was in the last. I just love this shot, man. It's all the flowers on the floor. I just love her expression, and this is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize. It's posing. It's not the lighting. Yeah, of course the lighting is great, but it's not the lighting. You can have the most beautiful lighting. You can have the most beautiful backdrop. If you have a model that's lying there like, oh my God, when is this over? The image will just suck. And when you look at this, her expression is, let me look on the big screen, yes. Her expression is just dead on. And dude, if this was my wedding photo, I would be in trouble wearing a dress, but I would just absolutely love this. So
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
And I love the lighting here. I love the structure.
It's because I used a light meter.
Yeah.
Really, I'm not joking.
The force is strong in this one. I really like it. Okay. Next shot will be on this, of course. Okay. Dubai.
Yes.
I think I went to the same June.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
They told me it would be red.
Yeah.
And it was such a disappointment. So what did I do?
Oh, you got to go further into the desert.
Yeah,
for
we
more
went
red.
further in, and then I actually, at one point, I was so fed up, I didn't want to go further.
Yeah.
And I just closed my exposure to
Okay.
stops and used a lot of strobes,
Yeah,
and there
yeah.
was the red. So what's the story behind this one, Brett? Because I absolutely love it, but tell a little
So
bit
this
about the
is
story.
this is a real wedding, and I have in my pricing options. I've got like the super duper option, and this client took the Armani option. It's called Armani, and that includes a shoot the day after the wedding, and I mean that gown is just absolutely gorgeous. It's a
Yeah.
Stephen Khalil gown. He's an Australian wedding dress designer, and his work is absolutely phenomenal. We went out into the dunes in Dubai. Very, very windy day. And it was just when the Elencrom HS flash came out. So I practiced at home because I think that's really important as well.
Know your gear.
Yeah, you can't practice on a client.
No.
So I practiced at home, and this was the first time that I shot for a client with HS, and it was just a really unique. It was the first time I'd shot HS, so it turned out to be a really cool shot for me. And because I'm targeting people who are fashion conscious and are fashion aware, when I get them to do certain things and certain poses, it still feels authentic. Because if you ask the man on the street or the lady on the street to pose in a way like that, it could look awkward. So it all just fitted in perfectly, and it's one of the shots that I've used in my advertising as well.
You're just a lucky guy. When I do a wedding, people look nice, but they don't look like models.
Well, that's because I am fishing for that specific demographic.
He's actually going. If you want to do his wedding, you first have to send in your portfolio, otherwise Brett won't show up.
Well, it's not really like that. It's more the case of if people look at images like that,
they will buy.
If they like them.
Yeah.
If they don't, I don't even get an email from them. So you're almost pre-selling your client. When they email you or phone you, they've already seen your work, so they know what you are capable of, and they know what type. They know the genre. So I only get people that are fashion conscious or fashion aware that contact me. So yeah, it's basically filtering out. There's one saying that I heard a while ago that resonates with me quite deeply, and it's most people won't get it. That's the point.
Yeah. I heard one yesterday that was, you have to get up to get what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also goes back to, we won't do a one-up here, but Thomas Jefferson, the American president, if you want to achieve something that you've never achieved before, you're going to have to do something you've never done before.
Yeah, correct.
And that's the same thing as get up.
And that resonates with
you got to put your
you have to put your effort in.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to ask about this shot. Now, a lot of people who ask me about weddings, they go like, in your fashion work, you're always trying to do something else. Unless, of course, I'm being paid to do the same thing over. But I strongly believe that I don't believe in picking something and then sticking with it for 2 years.
Yeah.
I love just doing a lot with fashion and just changing that over. However, with weddings, I'm a little bit different, and also with family portraits. So, for example, this with the velen, it's a shot you see a lot.
Yeah.
do you have certain things where you fall back, like for example this, or you have when you put the rings in a certain form, there's little heart shapes?
I don't do that part, but yeah.
Yeah,
I know
so-
what you mean. I
So
know what you mean.
you also have your when I
your
do a
bread and
wedding-
butter.
Yes, I have like 6 or 7 shots in a wedding. When I do a wedding, 6 or 7 shots, and I want to take those shots,
Uh-huh.
and then everything else is improvised because
Yeah.
people just love that kind of look.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you keep that from getting repetitive? Because
Okay.
here, when you look at this is just absolutely stunning.
Mhm.
So how do you keep that fresh all the time?
Okay, so essentially what you want to do is you want your work to evolve, but you don't want to be schizophrenic. You don't want to shoot something completely different next week
No.
because people have hired you for what you created and they've seen online, right? So if I shoot, let's just say 10 poses that worked for a specific client, the next wedding, I'm going to, in my mind, I know what works and I know what resonates with the client. But instead of shooting those 10 poses, I'm going to shoot 8 and then put in 2 new ones.
Yeah.
On social media, I only show the 2 new ones.
Yeah.
So it looks like my work's continually evolving and people are like, wow, that's so cool. Brett's work is amazing and it's changing all the time. It is changing, but it's changing slower than what it's perceived to be changing because I'm only putting in the 2 new stuff, the 2 new. So if I've done that, I'll put it on my social media once. Then it will become part of my formula, if you want to call it a formula.
Your
Structure.
arsenal.
Structure, yeah. Arsenal, that's a good one. And then the next wedding that I do, I will then introduce 2 new things and show that on social media. So that's how my work evolves. This shot over here, I might disappoint you with this because generally that whole veil shot is normally the bride and groom together under the veil, and then the veil around the bride and groom, or you're shooting from the outside and the veil's covering the bride and groom. But that was the videographer's shot. He was like, okay, this is what I want you to do. And I was like, that's so cool. Can I shoot that? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we've got that relationship. If you work with the same,
Yeah.
if you work with like-minded
Inspiring.
people in the industry, he's going to do that once. I'm going to copy him. We move on to the next
Yeah.
thing. And next time I might be doing something that he goes, wow, that's cool. Can I do that? I'm like, yeah, sure. Because we're both helping each other
Yeah.
out. Now, I might do that at somebody else's wedding again, but I'm not going to put it out there every single wedding. That's also one of the things when it comes to social media that I believe a lot of photographers are doing wrong. They'll shoot a job and they'll put 150 pictures up on Facebook. And then next week they do the same, they do another wedding and they put 150 pictures up. It's like, it's going to look like a sausage machine. It's going to look
Yeah,
like
the same thing.
It's going to look like, and seriously, if you see an album with 150 pictures on, how many of those pictures do you look at?
3 or 4.
And then you just get bored.
Yeah,
And
I do the same thing with workshops. I try to post, and that's also because we want people in the workshop, so it's always difficult. I try to post 3 images from every set that we shoot. And if I
Yeah.
don't have 3 images, I will try to post only 1.
Yeah,
But if I do a set that's exactly the same as we did before, I don't post it.
absolutely.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Okay, same here. And this is where you can see the difference between a good photographer and somebody who just tries to.
Yeah.
Okay, first, the use of space.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people call negative space. I always call it positive space.
Yeah.
Because in a photo, there can't be any negative space, because if there's not negative space, your image just sucks.
Okay.
So it's positive. Now, what a lot of people will say, hey, why not look that way? I think this is stronger, because here, when you look at the lighting, you're being forced here to a face, and I don't know what lighting you use, because I think there are 2 different light sources, because you have a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just absolutely adore this kind of stuff.
So I've got window light coming from the left,
Yeah.
and I've got the Lowell GL1, that gun light.
So very low color temperature.
It's very, very warm, and it's also quite focused. So that's
Yeah,
why,
like a spot effect.
yeah, that's why you can see on this area here, it's quite warm. So what I was hoping that the image would portray would be sunset or a warmer light coming through from this area, and then obviously you've got the cooler light on her arm there, on the tricep.
I just love this.
Thanks, mate.
Very, very cool. Okay, same
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the desert.
Yeah, same
Okay.
thing there. Yeah,
I just love the dress here.
the dress is gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me talk to you about the
Yeah.
dress quickly. So there was a viewer that was commenting and saying that he found it difficult to get models to pay him to do portfolio shoots. So if you go back to things like networking and getting into the right network, that you do get people who want to shoot with you and companies that want to shoot with you, then you're obviously doing something right. Now, you just mentioned that you really like the dress. Now, when I did a bridal show in London, when I was choosing the location of where I wanted my stand to be, and in fact, the image before this one was my backdrop to promote my business. When I was choosing the stand where I wanted to be, I looked at who was around me, and one of the dress designers was Suzanne Neville, and
So
she's
took images of her.
okay. So
Yes.
I hang out. I make sure that we're back to back. You know what it's like at a trade show. Stuff's going on over there. Stuff's going on over there, and you can talk to your neighbor. Hi, I'm Brett. Oh, like see what's going on here, and then I see that she's drinking mint tea. So tomorrow, we're there for 3 days, right? So tomorrow, when I go off to get a coffee for myself or something, I come back and there's your mint tea. And now we're having a little chat. Exactly the same concept as hanging out at the tennis club.
Yeah.
If I had to knock on her door and say, hi, Suzanne, my name is Brett, I'm a photographer, she'll be like, excuse me, I don't have time for this.
No.
But she's standing at a trade show with nothing else to do because maybe there's a fashion a fashion show going on, or there's a little bit of downtime, or the show hasn't started yet, and I then communicate with them and build up a rapport. Take her business card on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, write to her, hi Suzanne, it was really cool meeting you. Hopefully, I see you again someday. I don't want to go like, I want to shoot for you, I want to do this.
No,
Can we do
just
this?
let them come.
Again, the warm introduction, the warm welcome.
Yeah.
Then, I would say to her in 3 or 4 months' time, hi there, Suzanne, I'm going to be shooting in the Dubai desert in October. I would love to photograph one of your gowns there. How is it possible that we can make it happen? She ships the gown to me. I take care of it, and I'm shooting Suzanne Neville's gown in the middle of the gorgeous Dubai desert with great lighting, great model. I then send that image to her. She's like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. She puts it on her social media. She's got 800,000 followers. Suddenly I go up,
Yeah.
and
I always
that's how
say
you do
connecting
it.
bubbles. Like, this is my bubble, that is your bubble. If I invite you over to Digital Classroom and you tweet about it, those bubbles will connect. That's why you're here. of course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay, next shot. Same desert, same dress, or different?
Same
dress?
desert, same dress designer.
So you have your spots. Well, it works. Why not?
The way it started for me with this whole desert thing, follow the money. There's a lot of money in the Middle
Dubai.
East. Yeah, there's a lot of money in the Middle East. Now, I was traveling a lot from Durban to Amsterdam and back and forth, and because I fly Emirates, I would stop over in Dubai and then carry on through. And I was like, oh, I really want to shoot weddings in Dubai. How do you decide you want to shoot in a certain area, and how do you penetrate that area in terms of being a destination photographer? So what I did once was the plane lands in Dubai at 4 a.m, and my next flight was going to be 8 o'clock, or because there's a flight from 8 o'clock to Amsterdam from Dubai, or there's a flight from 2 o'clock to Amsterdam. So I land at 4 a.m, and I've pre-arranged everything. So I've got a model, I've got
Go out, take the shot, done.
get off the plane, go out, take the shot, get back to the airport, get on the plane, and come back. So I've got no hotel expenses. I have to pay for a visa though.
You're there anyway.
I have to pay for a visa, $100 or maybe $80 or something. It's a transit visa or whatever. Okay. Off I go, come back, put pictures like this up on my website. And because now I'm saying this is shot in the Dubai desert, next minute, 3 or 4 bookings,
Yeah.
and I'm shooting weddings in Dubai.
Next time I'm going to do
gotta
this on
get
the beach.
But you got to get off the couch, right?
Yeah, you got to get up.
Oh, here we go.
The Wonder Bra. Now, if people can't stand this, look away. So how did you... Well, what is this? Except, of course, the Wonder Bra.
Yeah. So I was the official Wonder Bra photographer for 11 years. Until Wonder Bra changed its branding strategy from being a sexy product to more of a functional product now. Because if you really think about it, when was the last time you saw an advert for Wonder Bra? Years ago, right?
2 seconds ago.
Yeah, but years ago.
Yeah.
So I think I stopped shooting for them probably 2013 or 2012 or something like that. So the way the Wonder Bra thing came about was in my studio, my very first studio that I opened up, it was 3 meters by 4 meters. So I could only shoot headshots, right?
Hmm?
I had a guy come in, Markelar,
Real estate agent.
real estate agent. I had a real estate agent come in and he asked me to take his headshot because it's for his business card, right? And he said to me, do you photograph clothing catalogs? So I said yes.
Of course, we always say yes. Whatever they ask.
So he said to me, because my wife works at a surfwear brand called Island Style, and they're looking for a photographer to photograph their catalog. I said, yeah, of course, I do it all the time. I'm your man. So I started shooting for Island Style, and they liked what I did. And because it was a surfwear brand, I shot quite a few catalogs with bikinis. From that, I got Roxy, the surfwear brand Roxy, and Quicksilver. And then I got a phone call, and the person said to me, you're the guy that shoots all the swimwear for Roxy, right? So I said, yes, that's me. They said, we're looking for a lingerie photographer. Do you do that?
Always say yes.
Yes. And that's how I started shooting for Wonder Bra. But the moral of that story is it came from a headshot for an estate agent.
That's
Now,
why I never cancel. That's what I told in the start. You never know.
Never know who.
It's the butterfly
Yeah,
effect.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It is, absolutely.
Wow.
Okay, so this shot here, when you enter competitions for wedding photography, generally the criteria would be that it's shot on the day of the wedding. There's a separate category for
Dress to dress?
yeah. Okay. There's a separate category for that. But if it's shot on the day of the wedding, you can enter it into that category. This couple was a couple that was eloping, so they didn't have guests. So she didn't care that she got the dress wet, right? So I convinced them to shoot on the same day, specifically so that I could enter it into competitions. Yeah, I mean, it's lit with the Ellen Crom ELB 400. With my assistant who's in the water up to here, and he's got the monopod and he's holding the box above up super
Yeah, we have
high
some
and-
images of Anne Week looking like that.
Yeah.
So you cheated.
It's not cheating. Why is it cheating?
Yeah, okay. Next shot. The surf brand.
Yes, so that's before
Pure
I
natural
started.
light.
Yes, that's natural light.
Love it.
Yeah.
And and this is something that I want to 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay.
Yeah, we're back on.
I think we're back with audio, so let me move this a little bit closer. So, sorry guys, sometimes batteries run out. These are so long. Okay, so let me just turn up the volume a little bit. Because we start everything. It always resets back to 0. Okay, I think now we have our proper audio back. Okay, guys, sorry for that. Okay, let me see. When a lot of people start out, and I want to give this to a lot of the people that are watching, they will actually say, oh my, it's blown out a little bit. In all honesty, guys, it doesn't matter. For me, if an image provokes emotion and is a great image, I don't care if there's a little bit black somewhere or there's a little bit white. I know that when you start out with photography, everything has to be perfect. But I think at one point it's about emotion.
Well, what I learned reading Vogue, Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar, you could look at those pictures and some of them are out of focus, some of them the lighting is terrible, some of them are shot with direct flash, but it's all done intentionally.
Yes.
So what you're saying is correct, but whatever is in the image needs to be there on purpose.
Yep.
So, you know, if it's blown out by mistake, then it's not cool. But if it's blown out intentionally, sure, then it's going to work.
If you do something wrong once, you're dumb. If you do something wrong twice, you're dumber. If you do something wrong 3 times, you have a style.
I like that.
Okay, tell me a little bit about this one. Life of Time? What's it in the back?
Gateway Shopping Center.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
But I did shoot it in a way that it could be interpreted anyway. This image here was of a musician, and it was when I had been shooting off-camera flash for a while, and I wanted to evoke that sort of rock star type of environment here, and it's quite theatrical. And in Durban, I mean, you don't have in Amsterdam. You've got that really cool cinema with those like
Pathé?
No, on the roof. They've got like the big letters on the roof.
Oh, yeah?
And I wanted to create sort of like the Hollywood thing and all of that kind of stuff. But obviously it's yeah, I mean, so it is about theater, and the artificial light it was shot for a magazine as well. So it's an editorial shot, yeah.
Like it a lot. Okay, I like this is always something that I love to do.
I think this one's a little bit bright though.
Or just breathing on the lens. So how did you get that effect?
So this is a little bit, I think personally, I think it's a little bit too light. I think it could have been toned down a little bit, but you can do anything to create a little bit of interest in your shot. You can use snoop papers,
candy wrappers.
Candy wrappers, even a glass like this. I mean, this is pretty cool with these lines in there, just in front of the lens, just to create a little bit of interest. That was a candy wrapper, and yeah, I think that personally, I mean, the shot works, but it was also an editorial shoot for a magazine, and what I am doing there is I'm consciously thinking about where the credits for the shot's going to go. So if you put the writing in over there, to say who did the dress, who did the hair, who did the makeup, I'm giving
letters.
Yeah, I'm giving the art director or the designer space to do that. So I would shoot it with and without, but I think that it just creates a little bit of drama, a little bit of interest.
Love it. Motion, love it.
Yes.
So what's this story?
That was a shoot for a makeup artist. Makeup artist wanted to create a behind-the-scenes video with the images that they were shooting as well, because I think that's really important these days as well, to shoot behind the scenes. But it gives you so much more legitimacy. It also shows that you're not insecure about your work and you're happy to show people how you do things. So this shot over here was a collaborative shoot for the makeup artist. And when I say collaborative, it doesn't mean I'm doing things for free. It means that we all doing things working together for her specific portfolio and for her book. And then the designer, the dress designer came in as well. So obviously I'm shooting to please 2 or 3 different people. And I think that, you know, it worked really nicely there. And it works in a this was in a color blocking series. So I've got the blues, the yellows, you know, the contrasting colors and the complementary colors that are working together there. So
I really like it.
Yeah, it was good fun.
And I like it. If somebody is online, just Google Jill Greenberg, and you know why I like that stuff so much.
Why weren't you looking at my pictures? Where are your pictures?
Oh no, they're in random order. I
Oh, okay.
So this is a little behind the scenes, a little bit of light from there.
So this shot here, I shot with a prism in the way of the lens. So you can just get from Amazon. You can just get it's called it's like a science prism. You get them for schools. Just
Yeah.
2 or 3 euros. I mean, they're not expensive at all. What I like about this shot, it was shot in the toilet in the WC at a fancy hotel. The hotels, the toilets at a hotel are often the best room in the whole.
Yeah,
they are
brightly lit.
They are gorgeous.
Yeah.
They are really, really gorgeous. So yeah, this shot was for an editorial for a magazine, and I had gone to the toilet and I said, guys, we've got to shoot in the toilet. It's so beautiful.
I shot this amazing shot a few years ago in Dubai in the Cavelli Club.
Yeah.
And you have those padded restrooms.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
And that's the ladies' restroom. And then you go to the guys' restroom and you go like,
yeah, what's going on
let's
here?
go to the ladies' restroom.
Yeah.
Bear.
Yeah, that's underpants.
Really?
So because I was shooting for Playtex, because I was shooting for Wonderbra, Playtex have other brands underneath them, or similar brands that they have together, and that's really meant that I was shooting. There was a brand called Girl Inc., which is for teenagers. She Bear, which is obviously the female version of this. Then there was Bear, then there was Playtex, then there was Wonderbra. So 5 different lingerie brands, all under one umbrella, all because of one makelar.
I just love the shadows here. A lot of people are afraid of shadows, and I always tell, shadows are the soul of a shot, but you have to have connection. Like, when you shoot this against a white backdrop, you have a guy against a white backdrop. This gives dimension.
Yes, yeah. And this was only shot with one light. I'm not, you know, and it's with the Elenchrom, what were you talking about? D-lights or something like that?
D-lights, the cheaper ones.
Yeah, I think it was those lights with a beauty dish about this big.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, and he was such a nice guy to work with. Yeah, unfortunately, he's actually passed away.
Oh my!
I heard he passed away about 2 years ago, and he was such a cool guy to work with.
That's a shame.
Yeah, really, yeah, good brand. Wonderbra.
I just hate those backdrops. I have the same one, and they always reflect.
Yeah.
And I always try to do the same thing that you do: embrace the reflection.
Yeah, because I see it. I can see it there.
Yeah,
I can see it there. This was actually at somebody's house, and it's wallpaper.
Yeah,
so
that's wallpaper too. Only
yeah.
I have the black one, and however you know, I use that backdrop as a teaching tool.
Yeah.
Angle of incidence is angle of reflection.
Yeah,
because it just shines like crazy.
Yeah.
And you did some really nice work here. Love it. Really nice. And sometimes the best locations are at somebody's house.
Let me talk a little bit about broadside and narrow side lighting, because you can see here I used a very big octa softbox, like a really big. It's also one light. I think there might be a little bit of a kicker light, like at the back for her hair, but I don't think so. So if you look here, her body is twisted away from the light, and her face is twisted towards the light. So you
pinpointing.
Yeah,
the face.
and understanding. If the light had been on the other side, it would have been a terrible shot.
Yeah, and I think you have to find your focal point. And a lot of people say that big softboxes are the deal, and then they actually aim everything towards that softbox. And I think the way you do it here,
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, I don't really like those big softboxes. I like more the Fresnels and the aimed light sources and the grids.
Yeah.
But when you look at something like this, you're actually using that same technique, turning it around, turning the face back, and you get that really nice pinpoint.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, there we have one of mine.
Cool.
So, what do you think?
Well, I really like the graphic elements that you've introduced here. There are like 50 triangles going on in there. You've got your main triangle hanging out over there. There's triangles everywhere, which is fantastic, because one of the most important things when it comes to composition is recognizable shapes.
Yeah, S-curves, triangles.
Yes, and triangles represent strength. So this here is a very, very strong shot. The black and white, you've pushed the contrast, or you've lit it like that. I don't really know too much about post-production. I don't do my own post-production.
I hardly have any post-production.
Okay.
I just push some sliders to get a look, and that's it.
All right, okay.
Now, we used a very small softbox on this one, or maybe even beauty this with a grid.
Yeah.
And it was the end of the workshop. This, I think, was the last set, and we actually made her hair all wet.
Yeah.
And she just went into makeup and just went like, okay, you have some black stuff.
Yes.
And
yeah.
And it shouldn't be hard.
So it's quite strong and vulnerable at the same time.
Yeah. That's what I like about the shot. That's
Yeah.
why I included it. Same for me.
Yeah.
Very much inspired by guys like George Sorel and the hardcore stuff.
Okay.
So very.
And was this from a
light.
workshop as well?
This also works. So all the images I shoot are during workshops.
From a workshop. And that's also one light, right?
One light,
Okay.
yes. Okay, Kenko Color.
Another lingerie brand, because as soon as you start to get the ball rolling, you get known as you're the Wonder Bra guy, right? I'm like, yeah, and then suddenly you're getting work from other brands as well.
It's not the wrong brands to shoot for.
Yeah, it could be worse.
It's better than Coats. Okay, this is one of mine.
I like that. I like that from an artistic perspective. Now, I was never really born creative, so when I look at something like that, I'm assuming you came up with that from your own thought process.
In all
right?
honesty, I can do it like it's there, but this was the first one in a series where I started using gels.
Okay.
And during the workshops, I always have this one part where I actually teach people also Photoshop.
Yeah.
So I have a Photoshop course, which is like 3 hours. And during the workshops, I do a little bit of tidbits of Photoshop. And I had this shot, and I really liked it, but there weren't any colors in.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point I said, like, okay, so what if we shoot this with gels? And I just started painting on the picture and just making them blend together. Normally my Photoshop work is literally, I import the image, I do skin work, I take away some blemishes, and then I determine the look and I save. That's it. It's 5 minutes per shot max. And with this one, I just kept adding colors on top of each other and just blending them together with soft light and hard light in Photoshop. And I ended up with this. A few weeks later, I shot almost the same shot and I used gels.
And you prefer, which one's this?
I prefer gels.
Is this the Photoshop one?
This is the Photoshop version. I prefer gels because that's... Yeah, I can still see the difference between Photoshop and gels because they blend differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. An outside workshop.
I've seen this picture before.
What I like to do is include the sun in the back.
Yeah.
And especially because we're shooting on f16, f11, f22 with this kind of shot. This is probably f22. You get those really nice lines in the sun.
Rays, yeah.
Yeah.
So is this before HS or you don't like to shoot HS?
I never shoot HS. The reason is actually I shoot HS when I shoot it myself, or HSS or whatever we have on the strobes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it during a workshop because I know a lot of people can't afford the AH heads. So I actually teach them the old-fashioned way. So just do it by using a lot of power. And as soon as we find out that nowadays, for example, there are way more HS systems and HSS.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're actually in the workshops. If people want to know, we also shoot it on HSS or HS. But in essence, the theory behind it is very, very simple to adjust. It's only the aperture you can change, and you have to know how the gear works. So in the workshops, I try to teach stuff that people can literally just do at home with the strobes that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we don't use a lot of HS.
Okay, so now
Smoke.
there's a lot of smoke and gels and very theatrical. I mean, it's and you've got the warm and the cold going on there.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. And somehow I like a warm side and a cold side. And I love smoke. And what you say, theatrical. And I think that defines what I like to do.
Yeah.
Like over the top. Almost like a Chinese theater
Okay,
kind of
yeah,
stuff. Like the big dresses. And this is, of course, is Nadine with... She has amazing...
I like the swirl in the
creativity.
background. The
Yeah,
swirl.
you know what it is with smoke? A lot of people think that smoke is just pumping smoke. And it isn't, because I like to have that connection. If you look underneath, there's this connection with the model and the smoke. Because a lot of people will do backdrop, smoke, model. For me, that doesn't work, because then you can Photoshop it. There should be some smoke in front.
Okay,
And
yeah.
what we sometimes do is just in the smoke, just move your hand and you can get a swirl.
Okay.
And smoke can be manipulated very, very easily, if you know what you're doing. Renew.
Yeah, that's just a commercial shot for a hair care product. And yeah, it's just, ensuring that this you'll be happy about this. This shoot here, I never used the light meter as much as I did that day, because
You can't blow out any hairs on the
you
back.
can't blow out the hair. You have to light it from two sides, because you need a nice shine on this side and you need a nice shine on this side. But you need this like 2/3 of a stop more than this side, so it still looks natural. So it doesn't look like two lights. Then you've got the FUD to light. So really, I was everywhere was light meter. And yeah, I mean, once you've got the light set up, and also with snoots and grids and all that kind of stuff. So to make something look natural can be much more complicated
Oh yeah.
than
Just shooting it.
just
theatrical.
shooting- just shooting it
tell me about
theatrical.
it, yeah. It's one of mine, and this is actually, I included this because a lot of people will say, "Did you step out of the car?" No. This was shot through the windshield.
Okay.
And I think when you shoot through the windshield when traveling, you get so much more interesting shots, because first, you're in a position where you normally are not,
Yeah.
and you don't have to stop everywhere, so you get 10, 20 shots
Yeah.
instead of one.
Yeah. Nice leading lines, and I mean, yeah.
I just
This,
felt like
this
a
was in the
Roadrunner
States,
there.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It does look like Roadrunner.
Near Death Valley.
Okay.
So I just love the leading lines.
You see, now I'm looking there and I'm going like, we need a girl in a dress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I always include like travel stuff. photography and model.
Yeah.
Same thing here. Guess the camera. Look at the quality. What camera do you think we used?
You went to Android, so it must be the Samsung.
At this time, it was still an iPhone. But this is just to show you, like, if
Yeah,
you
but
make-
that's interesting, and it's telling a story.
Yeah, and I just love the reflection on the hood, because some
Yeah.
people said, "Why didn't you point the camera up a little bit?" I said, "Look at all that reflection. You literally see the whole city."
Yeah.
And guys, just always bring your camera with you, because it's so difficult to take a picture without the camera. I love to have a little bit of humor in there. If you have to ask what it is, get out.
Okay.
And this is also, now in the Netherlands, you see this a lot in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
This is shot in America, so I think it's pretty out there, because this is in a state where marijuana is not legal.
Yeah.
And it's literally the respirators that you can use for example, marijuana or any other herb, of course.
Okay. Yes.
Because,
Yes.
that's how they advertise.
Yeah.
And I think what I like to do in my images is also find a little bit of that humor.
Yeah.
And of course, again, the reflection. You can see that we're on a flea market.
Yeah.
So don't go for the close-up. That's why I included this one.
Yeah. It's telling the story.
Yeah, don't go
It's
for the
yeah.
close-up, but sometimes zoom out. And I know one of my teachers, when I was starting out, always said, if an image isn't nice enough, you're not close enough. Frank, I think it's Kappa who said it. And he always repeated that. If an image is not interesting enough, you're not close enough. Over the years, I learned more and more about photography. And my opinion is actually, sometimes they're right. Most of the times, it's better to take a step back.
Yeah.
But do make sure that your point of interest is still very much your point of interest, but show everything around.
I think that what they're also saying there is change your angle of view.
Yeah.
If your image is not nice, if your image is not interesting enough, change the angle of view.
I think that's
go
the way
higher,
better.
go lower, go
Yeah.
closer, go further.
Yeah, I
but
think
just do
that's-
something different.
That's way better than the other one. Yes.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. It's another shot during a workshop, And what I did here was actually something that I hardly ever do. I don't have the guts somehow to go way overboard with my retouching and looks. And I always say, like, people, if you have a bad shot, you Instagram the heck out of it, and it will still be a bad shot because Instagram introduced all those filters. And I think when you look at this shot, I literally went overboard in Capture One with one of the presets, but somehow it just fit.
I like it.
Yep. I think you have won the bra, I have Shayna. So, what do you think of this? Do you know what it was inspired by?
Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
And Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like to do.
You like shoes?
No, I'm not particular. But I like to put a little bit of accessories in the set to break it.
Okay.
Like when you take them out, it just looks like red.
All right.
When you put them in.
My flower shot, you would have put something there.
No, you put the flowers in.
Yeah, but there was still that negative space.
If you have the negative, maybe a veil or whatever could be in there.
Okay.
Maybe. It's somehow how I trigger, like, if I see a lot of negative space, I always want to have something in there unless it's a solid color.
Yeah.
But somehow I can't stand it without the shoe. So I'm always going like, I shoot it, there's something empty, put the shoes in. And I think that came from a shot which I took many, many years ago in England. And we had this annoying reflection on the floor. It annoyed the heck out of me. And I couldn't get it out because I didn't bring any flags because we were on location. The studio didn't have any flags. And at one point it just bugged me so much. And I just took this little wobbling child horse. And I just put it straight smack in the middle, like going like...
You're blocking the shadow. That's what I mean. Reflection.
No, that big spot on the floor. I hate you. I just put something in there like a point of interest. I took the shot. I looked at it like, oh, pretty.
That's cool.
And a lot of people were going like, that's so genius because now you have the model over there and you have this accent light on that little horsey. Oh my God, you're a genius. And I was going like, you should be at that workshop. I was so frustrated. I couldn't get it out. There were no flags. And at one point, as a final disastrous attempt, just throw something in there, take the shot, totally frustrated, look at your screen and go like, yes. And ever since, I've been using negative space actually to put in small details.
Yeah. So this is a catalog shoot. For clothing catalogs, a lot of the time you will shoot 200 garments in the studio, and then they break it up into chapters when they're making the actual book, when they're actually making the catalog that they give to buyers at department stores. And then each chapter has like an image that introduces you to what's going to be on in the catalog. And then you have the
garments.
Yeah, so that was one of them there. And this is shot, this wall over here is underneath a bridge, a railway bridge. You can see water, dripping down from the back. And obviously here, I think the key to the success of this image is the balance of natural light and the flash.
It looks very natural.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, but you can see that the light's very much coming from behind.
That's the hard part, what you said, making look something natural.
It really is.
Because if you would have overblown it, you would have lost all the detail in the hair.
Yeah.
So you need a kicker there. Yeah. Love this.
Another one on the same.
You have such an amazing, boring job, man. This is just awesome.
It
makes a living, right?
Yeah, again, it's not what it seems.
No, I know.
There it looks like this girl's lying on the beach all naturally, and she just lay there, and
they don't see the umbrellas on top
and
because it's raining.
And you've got 4 other models changing over there in the with the model tent or whatever. You've got 3 people from the design thing over there. You've got your assistant with a reflector. So what you see is really not what happened, and she's like, oh, it's so cold, or I'm getting cramp, or so it's not.
They don't realize that summer clothing is shot in winter.
Yeah, generally, yeah.
How do you get, because that's something that a lot of people struggle with, how do you get continuity and color accuracy? Because Anouk, a long time ago, ordered something from a mail order, and it was a red shirt and a red scarf. And they both looked exactly the same, and they came in, and they were not the same.
Different. Well, yeah, I don't do my post-production, but when I know that the catalog, I don't know if they still do this now, because digital is quite dangerous for the clothing industry, because they print the catalogs. Because if I am Adidas and I'm designing clothes now for next summer, like not 2019, for 2020 summer, all my designs have to be secret. You know, I can't let them out into the world. So if I had to have a digital catalog, the chances of that getting out
much
there
higher.
it's like industrial espionage. So they print catalogs. So the quality of the printing is really, really important for when they go and sell them to the department stores. But when it's online, I mean, it's like...
But do you shoot color checkers to get
Yeah.
color even? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but then again, like I said, I don't do my own
but you shoot
post-production, but I shoot it and I give it to the...
A lot of people tell you, like, you don't need color checkers, you
No,
just
you do.
change it. Yes, you do. Yeah.
Yesterday I shot yesterday I photographed a school. I photographed school photography and even color checker, light meter, all of that.
What is this? I love it. I will tell you why I love it. It would have been so easy to make this bright, and you choose to tone it down, like maybe a stop. And I just absolutely love it. Also, that the light with the shadow transition on our foot, it makes it almost surreal.
It's meant to look surreal. It's for a jewelry company. The shoot was specifically for a jeweler, it was shot again to look theatrical and not natural. So either you make it look natural or you make sure that people know that you did it on purpose. Again, it goes back to make sure you did it on purpose. That's fun. I like the shadows there because that's what it's all about.
It's the first thing that I saw. Plus, it's I just love Americano.
Yeah.
Like somehow, some people ask me like, "What's your favorite country to visit?" And it's without any doubt for nature, it's Norway.
Okay.
Or Sweden or Denmark, that kind of stuff. But when I really have to choose, it's America. For the very simple reason, you have all this Americana, those bright colors. It's almost like Disneyland in real life. And when I see something like this, I just can't resist. And those Americans were just looking at me like,
why are you taking
tourist?
But you are a tourist, and so what? That's pretty cool.
Okay, this is on a boat.
Yes.
And it's her reflection.
Yes. And it was the first shoot that I did with the every 3 or 4 years they would rotate the Wonderbra model. Not rotate, they would get a new Wonderbra ambassador. And this was the first shoot that I did with this girl, Elby van der Merwe, who's such an amazing model. She taught me about light because of the way she would move her body. She's the same girl in the one that you said with the background.
Okay.
And I learned from her to keep quiet on a shoot, because if your client is employing the right models with the right makeup artist, all of that, she is such a top-notch professional that I thought that as a photographer, I need to go, okay, move your body like that, turn your head this way, chin up. And eventually I was like, just keep quiet and watch, because she knows exactly what she's doing.
And then just go like, great.
Yes.
I always tell people, like, if the model does great, tell her.
Yes.
Don't ever shoot like this.
Yeah. You've got to communicate.
Like, oh, great, but don't steer her, because she's doing it herself.
Yeah, and if I was telling her to do certain things, because you have to remember, the way I started, like I said, was really just hustling my way in. So being in a position like this where I learnt so much from her was such a privilege, for me. And she taught me a lot.
We were talking about using light meters. This was a nightmare.
Yes.
I wanted to have detail in this, and this is actually translucent.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have detail in this.
Wow.
And this is literally something, I kid you not, 1/10 of an f-stop over and you're done.
1/10?
1/10. Yeah, I had a lot of trouble because I wanted this part to show up, the side areas.
Yeah.
And at one point she moved a little bit more forward towards the light. And at that time the light actually blew out the material because it's also reflective.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts, but it was a challenge. And actually the makeup artist said, it's so cool. I said, okay, let's up the ante a little bit. Let's do it also with black. And we send this in for hairdressers.
It's quite conceptual. It's really cool.
And the only thing is, like, I didn't have any pick in the models. And I think some did really great, like the models you see here.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's the client chooses the models,
Yeah.
and often they're the clients of the hairdresser.
Yes.
And I really like to do those shots with models, and it's all
Yeah.
about expression again. When you look at shots like this,
No, you need to have that connection.
yeah, I don't see that aggression. What I would like to see, I don't see that screaming action. Like,
Yeah.
wow, this is it. I'm going for it. So sometimes I just miss that. Hey Brett, it was awesome. Let me see if we have any more questions. Do we have questions on Facebook? No, people are very quiet today. Can I make that my target? Become a Wonder Bra photographer. Oh yes, targets are always there. Let me see. Love this conversation. Thank you guys. Okay, and a great model. Yes, Brett is a great model. Enoweek has a little bit of a paper she wanted me to read, but Enoweek isn't here. So can you grab her very quickly?
Yep.
So I'm gonna now turn my intern towards a messenger boy.
All right.
Brett, what is your one-time super duper awesome best ever tip for people?
Know your target market. In terms of running a business, it's definitely know who you're shooting for. You can't just cast out a great big net and hope to catch something. If you're going to go fishing, you put the right bait for the right target market.
Awesome.
So it's about knowing your target market.
Okay. Enoweek has a little bit of a surprise for you.
Or for your wife.
Ah, dankjewel. Thank you so much.
And also
That's
a
very
box
cool.
of
Whoa,
Maxi.
that's brilliant.
Maxi.
They won't even make it home. So these will come home, but my boys, sorry guys, they won't make it home. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you.
Thank you
So
so much for being here, Brett.
Absolutely,
It was awesome
man.
chatting with you guys.
Cool.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go offline next. Digital Classroom will be again a live shoot, or maybe something else. You never know with us. Guys, if you like what we do, subscribe to our channel, leave comments below, smash that like button because we really like it. But most of all, tell other people about our channel because then we can grow. We're almost at 25,000 subscribers. Yay!
That's cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
It's a
and
lot.
it's a lot for us. So, and thanks so very much to BenQ and Rogue for making this possible, and also, of course, to X-Ride for sponsoring Behind the Closed Doors. Guys, see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Doei doei.
Doei doei.